I don't know where you'd get
Where's
it.
Oscar?
But like,
Not here yet.
You know, what does it smell like in the room? Like, what does the curtain smell like? I mean, that's what I would ask.
Then it would probably find info somehow. You know?
But it wouldn't be
make
able to.
assumptions. It would make assumptions.
Right, you'd have to give it more. You'd have to give it like. You'd have to give it. Now I may have a complete wrong idea.
You're like in the domain of like emotions.
Have you
Well, no, but
have you ever talked to an AI chatbot?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
The one on Snapchat, Grok, ChatGPT.
Okay.
I mean, I've talked to him, and
You know what's interesting?
dude, you know what I asked ChatGPT? I asked it if about the. Now I'm not going to get into it too much, but I know what the answer is, and I can prove it. I asked it about if a plane is on a treadmill, if it can take off, and it said it can, and that's not true.
If a plane is
If
on
a plane is on a treadmill, and the treadmill spins as fast as the wheels, okay?
Yeah, but it would be stationary, right?
It wouldn't go anywhere. It couldn't go anywhere, and it said that it can.
That's what I'm saying. It's not smart, dude. It's not. Smart.
It gave me a whole bunch of formulas about how it could, and it's wrong.
What the
Absolutely
formulas
wrong.
say?
So the formulas are that the thrust pools air, okay, and because the thrust pools air, it's able to move in the air without needing to provide power to the wheels. That the wheels are free and they're going through the axle, and it gave me all these physical formulas. Now I don't remember the physics formulas right off the top of my head.
Wouldn't it be just?
But the answer
law?
that answer is incorrect. Because if the treadmill is moving with the speed of the wheels, then there's only two possibilities. Either the treadmill...
I'm leaving.
Well, where are y'all going?
Haley's hungry.
Okay.
Get some things to eat or something.
Okay, so either the treadmill is moving at twice the speed of the axle of the wheel, so it's either moving backwards, and the reason why is because the specific wording says the treadmill is moving at the speed of the wheel. Okay, that would mean the max speed. The max speed of the wheel is 2 times what the axle is moving, because the top portion of the wheel has angular velocity and linear velocity, which equals the axle speed and whatever the radial, determined by the radius of the wheel. So that's 2. It ends up being 2 of the axle speed.
So you typed all that in.
So I told it you're incorrect. Yeah, I told it, and it kept saying, dude.
I said, dude.
I didn't say dude, but it's wrong.
No, the ChatGPT's like, dude,
it's wrong.
you're wrong.
It's absolutely wrong.
So you're talking about like a treadmill, right, and a little toy, like.
Yes.
Hey, do y'all know anything about quantum computer? Because that might be something crazy. If what I am hearing is true.
So.
Apparently, it can do like literal chemistry.
Quantum. We have computers that can do that now. We have regular computers.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like.
No, but I'm talking like.
Yeah.
If 2 sodiums and
that's how they do. Like that's how they figure out like the proteins and cells and like binding proteins.
The only thing quantum computing is doing computing faster than what we can do now. That's all.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's just the introduction of the third stage.
Like you said, you can ask it like a lot of ridiculous things just to see where it'll go.
Yeah.
You're talking about like a little toy jet on like a treadmill going fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna.
It's.
I mean, if you read Wittgenstein, he always talks about.
If you talk to like a physics professor, I think they'd argue with you.
It's gonna.
They'd argue with you anyway. No, I mean.
The same way.
Its job is to compute.
It's. I know that it's wrong. It wouldn't be able to. Especially with the argument that it pools air. So one of the arguments that people will give, and the ChatGPT gave it, is that it's as if you pull a rope while you're on a treadmill, right? That's what it means by pulling air. But that's not true, because a rope has tension, right? It would be as if you're pulling a rope that's on a pulley, and the rope is self-feeding.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And that's what it would be like pulling wind while you're on a treadmill or a plane.
You expected it to say no.
I expected it to say no, and it said yes.
It said yes.
So
why would you expect it to say no?
Because that's a very common misconception that people have.
If it's a common misconception,
people talking about.
Yeah, and it copied what people were saying.
Yeah, well, that's its goal. That's the point of it.
Which goes back to the
idea
of it being
stupid.
It's not smart.
That specific AI you're talking to is a conversational AI meant for the layman, not for chemists and physics professors and engineers.
So then it's not intelligent.
That one is.
Got it.
Yeah. No, I
Not
don't
any of the ones you have access to.
So which one's intelligent then?
I don't know.
Do you think there's other AI
Oh, absolutely.
formats
Yes.
more catered for like hard science?
The ones we have access to as the layperson are conversational and like Google search replacements. That's it. It's consumer level garbage.
I thought AI
It's
was
the fast food of AI.
I thought AI was mostly like language learning
It
things.
is.
It is.
That's what I mean. But like,
But-
when
Okay.
Define
Let's
language.
get
You're
off.
talking about intelligence. I mean, Google designed one where the AI can set up an interview
Yeah.
for somebody like calling in, right? To where she couldn't make the distinction whether she was talking to
I mean,
a
I think
robot or-
that yeah,
or human
you
being.
you can do that with basic level programming.
I can tell you how to defeat AI.
Well, EMP.
Tell
is
them-
there even a real EMP out there?
Yeah, EMPs are real.
Yeah,
Yes.
Google calls it the big red button.
Yeah. EMPs are real, dog. Yeah.
How does that work?
EMP. Okay, so
It surges electronics.
all electronics are paths where current passes through.
Right.
All an EMP is a very strong and large electromagnetic pulse, which causes or induces current on things that can't accept current.
So
let's say we had a circuit board here
Sure.
with wires. When it's doing its thing, it's passing current, and when that current passes, it generates a small electrical field.
Sure.
An EMP introduces a massive electrical field,
From the outside,
which forces current in the wires and blows everything in it.
Yeah, it exceeds
So
its
does
capacity.
that work like a grenade type of deal? Is that
Yeah.
how it works?
Yeah, it could work off of a bomb. It could work off of like.
It'd be like blasting music and blowing out your eardrums.
Just like in the Matrix when they. hit the
Yeah,
button.
basically. I mean, it can be induced by anything that lets out a great electrical like.
It's why you shouldn't put your phone next to a strong magnet. It's the same exact principle.
Yeah. So, anyways, okay, let's back up. I don't want to talk too much, and I know that if people watch, not that people do, but if people watch and they talk about the treadmill plane, I know that people. But I promise you, the plane won't go nowhere. I promise to God, it won't go nowhere. All right?
One day you should fund that.
It makes sense.
Oh no. So I mean, I can explain it. I can explain it very easily right now.
I think it'd
And
be
it has to
Newton's
do
law
with
of
the
motion,
wording.
right? Like, because plane's not moving anywhere.
With the wording, yeah,
And-
but
and
the
you need some momentum for
idea is
for the lift.
the idea is that planes pull the air, and because they pull the air, the axle, they don't have to give power to the wheels. You understand? So planes don't give power to wheels. They move purely off of thrust.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea is because they don't have to power the wheels, they're only going forward by thrust. Because they're pulling air, they have to move forward, even if the treadmill's moving backwards. That's the idea, right? But that's not true because you're working off the principle that there's friction. Now, if you would have said frictionless, then perhaps that'll change things or whatever. But you're working off the idea that the wheel has to move from, let's say this is point A, which is making contact with the ground, and point B. The wheel has to do this in order for the axle to move from its point A to its point B. It can't just slide. That's why I said if you say frictionless, perhaps it can slide. Perhaps,
Yeah.
right? But because it has to do this, the same thing with the treadmill, its point A is going to move backwards in order to meet point B at the same position that point A was from the get-go. So it's going to do point A is my two knuckles. As the wheel turns because of the thrust from the axle, the treadmill is going to, its point B is going to meet the point B on the wheel at the position where point A's were meeting, and so on and so forth. It will never move forward, and because it cannot move forward, there's no airspeed, and because there's no airspeed, it cannot take off. Now, there's an argument, if you word it in the way that says the treadmill has to move at the same speed as the wheel, if you word it in that way, then you can make the argument that the plane might move backwards. And the reason is because the very top point of a wheel has twice the velocity of the axle because of its of its
Lesser comfort. Yeah.
because
It's on the outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A wheel pivots on its bottom point.
Yeah.
So the top point has velocity of the axle and its angular velocity.
Bro, for me, the engineering behind it is so hilarious because you can just apply basic logic and be like, I get it.
Yeah, that's how
So-
I feel.
Dude, look it up, bro.
Yeah.
Look it up. People
So
are like,
it's
yes,
like-
it can.
Can I run?
Yeah, it's like
off a
object
treadmill?
in motion will be in motion. When
Yeah.
it's not in
Yeah.
motion, it's not going to be in motion.
Yeah,
It's like,
dude. Look, dude.
Newton's law, dude.
Look it
Come on,
up,
bro.
and there are debates, bro. There's a company
How
that ran a computer model and was like, yes, it can take off.
How could you argue that you could run off a treadmill if the treadmill is keeping up with your running speed?
Yeah.
Because it's
That-
a wheel.
Right.
Because it's a
That's
wheel
my
and axle.
Right.
Because it's a wheel and axle. That's the whole point. Is that
I just came back from New York, so I mean, like when I was.
and you were on a treadmill.
No,
So
well,
you didn't actually
no,
go to New York, did you?
Now that you mention it, you listen to Wittgenstein. It's always about communicating ideas between people and the pictures that they have in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm flying on American Airlines,
And you
okay,
jump, but you're not.
the strip is like a giant treadmill
Right.
Yeah.
going in this direction.
Yeah.
Of course, the plane's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless, even then, if it starts going and it builds up speed before the
Yeah.
starts going this way,
Yeah.
then it's a question of whether it would take off, given how
So
fast
there's
this
another.
life-size treadmill. But the way I see, you're talking about like a toy plane.
No.
On
Dude, MythBusters did it with a real plane. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And they did take off, but the key is.
But it didn't go nowhere. I'm sure.
No,
probably
it did.
just
No, it
hovered.
did. The
Yeah.
plane took off. But here's the thing: the treadmill that they used was like this large canvas sheet that was being pulled by a truck, so it
It
doesn't
doesn't
match the
work.
speed.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not.
I see.
It has to match the speed of the
Right.
wheel. That's what you don't. That's what people don't understand. It has to match the speed of the wheel. Now the argument against that is, oh well, the wheels don't matter. It's the axle that matters because the axle's the plane. But it's pivoting. The wheel has to pivot, and because of that pivot and the treadmill matching it, no, it still cannot. So, anyways, but the argument for it to be going backwards is if you say it matches it, then you would assume that it matches its highest velocity of the wheel, and the highest velocity of the wheel is twice the speed of the axle. So it's possible that the treadmill is moving the plane backwards. Now, the third is that it can take off, but it doesn't take off because of its axle velocity. It takes off because of something called non-slip condition. From a treadmill, when the treadmill starts moving backwards as the plane tries to go forwards, the treadmill is going to be moving backwards. Well, in non-slip condition, in fluid dynamics, there's a layer of air stuck to everything, and as that layer of air moves, the layer of air above that one starts to move a little bit slower than that one, a little bit slower, and so on. So it looks like a gradient, right? So after enough time of the treadmill moving, it's going to be moving enough air because of non-slip condition that'll create an airspeed above the wheels or below the wings and through the wings,
will give it like this
which
floating.
will allow it to float in
That's
fucking
in
stationary,
place.
in place. So if the treadmill moves fast enough, that can occur. But I mean, this is super hypothetical. Whatever, it can't take the fuck off. I promise you, it can't. Okay, so anyways, we're spending too much time on that. Here's the thing. I want to know, Bruce, what is it that has you pessimistic exactly about technology?
About AI, right?
No, not about high technology. So
I
AI
probably can answer that for
mRNA. No, but he
Why I didn't respond because you said high technology, and I was going to ask you what you meant by like.
well, that's what I
Yeah,
said.
what do you mean by that?
mRNAs, AI,
upper level
tech, like supercomputing,
beyond a couple levels beyond the layman.
automated weaponry, stuff like that, right?
Like super AI and then like a super intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
T1000, T1500.
Right, it takes away
My,
from
my pessimism
Yeah,
is taking human beings out of the equation.
it takes the
Even
analog away.
yeah,
I mean,
the
it's-
analog. Yeah,
I mean, there is something romantic about analog,
I like.
But
yeah,
also,
I like analog for sure.
I think it'll make a lot of people obsolete.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest concern.
That's the pessimism. Well, I mean, dude, isn't it crazy that the Bible like kind of basically says that? Right?
What do you mean by
It
that?
says that you won't be able to be essentially what is the word? Take part in the economy if you don't take the mark. Right?
Mark of the beast.
Yeah, it says you're basically not going to be able to.
We're all gonna have Neuralink at one point.
That's what it says, bro.
For us to be able to,
isn't that crazy that
be a part of the market?
The
and
Bible
actually
says
contribute?
that, dude.
I think the question in the pessimism that's asked is effectively, is it man serving machine or is it machine serving man? Because when you do get to this level of abstraction with this higher level AI machine,
That's why I said enslavement.
You get to the point where it's man serving machine,
it's
and the
enslavement.
machine's taken off.
Yeah, man creates machine to serve man until the machine gets intelligent enough to,
Serve
like
itself.
I said, it's only one neocortex away
And I
from.
wonder,
I mean,
but that neocortex
Okay,
could be
so
like
this was a discussion.
1,000 years away.
This is a discussion that I had on Discord with it. Why would a machine want to survive?
Because it's programmed that way.
Because it's programmed to survive.
That's all it needs.
That's
It's
all it
just
takes.
a few lines.
Okay.
Well, when
You
it
just
looks,
gotta put a dash in one of those lines and fuck it all up.
Comment that though.
Put an asterisk on it.
Yeah, put a freaking backwards dash somewhere in that bitch.
yeah, you're talking about surviving. You're talking about like it's, kind of, acting to like a child.
Yeah.
Looking in the mirror. He said, don't touch my feet are cold or my hands are hot. When
Yeah.
a machine does that, or what they say like goes to the machine, that's when you should start worrying.
Do you think AI can start programming itself? Like,
Yeah, it does right now. That's the part of
really?
the AI. Yes,
Oh,
AI.
that
AI
sounds-
corrects
So,
errors in itself.
Yes and no. I don't think it touches its foundational base, but it touches everything above that, which is the neocortex aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
when you talk about like super intelligence, it goes beyond the algorithms that are set, beyond its programming.
Yeah.
That's why all these tests in Arizona where like self-driving cars, doesn't know to, the stoplight is broken.
Yeah.
Right? And usually it's just like communication. One person gets here, person that stops first, they go first. When
Yeah.
it's able to make those distinctions over time, then, for them it's like, the machine is making progress. For us, it becomes a little bit worrisome.
Yeah.
And then as they continue running tests, they found out that the machine itself started having road rage.
Getting pissed
really?
off.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I
road
mean,
rage.
shit,
And
dude.
they taped it.
It gets impatient.
Yeah, it was getting impatient.
No, dude, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Can you use that as a legal defense?
No,
Well,
but-
maybe,
but-
I mean,
but-
that means that it was programmed. A level of patience was programmed within it.
I feel like a level of optimization was programmed, not patience.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Oh,
but then
but
why would it
well,
get
for-
impatient?
Yeah.
Why would it get impatient?
No, because it's always
Because
trying to
they're shocking
optimize.
its balls every time it can't get it in time.
It's mechanical.
No,
muscle.
but what?
Okay, so here's a question that I asked in the text. Can objects be? Do they have morality? Do objects have a morality?
What do you mean? What object?
Are you Chinese?
Yeah. So like, are objects
You mean
amoral?
like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are objects amoral?
Like a stone.
Is
They
it-
would
is
be
there-
amoral.
Yeah.
Is a pet rock? Can a pet rock be a pet rock?
Can a pet rock be loved?
So
So it can be love.
So-
can it?
So objects don't have morality. So objects, they're completely immoral.
I would think so. Yeah.
Is
So if you create an item
It
that
depends on the
can
creator.
so that's the thing. You cannot
Talk to him,
ignore
right?
origin.
Right.
Okay, do not ignore origin and purpose. Now that's what I said in the text.
Uh-huh.
If you don't ignore origin and purpose, which I don't know why you would,
This is a topic in like ethics and engineering. Isn't
this is a topic of ethics in engineering, of course.
Oh, I believe
Are
that.
objects amoral? And if you create something that's made just to make people suffer, not not particularly for self-defense. Let's say that hypothetically,
that's how you can apply it. That's crazy.
If I make an object that is purely to make people suffer, not for defense purposes, just for suffering,
Advertisements.
is advertising? Is that object immoral?
No, but the creator would be
Yes.
immoral.
You think it's you
The
think the
designer,
object's still
the
immoral?
designer.
The designer's immoral.
Right,
designer
right,
and the
100%.
creator.
But
If
the
you're
object's
creating,
not.
you're creating an object
Not
to
the
hurt
object.
people.
I mean,
No.
dude, you can't blame the object.
Right.
I think that
Like,
I don't know.
It's
if,
not sentient.
I don't know. Do you need sentience for morality? Like, does sentience have to be present
I mean,
for
'cause
morality?
If
I
we're,
mean, you need consciousness
You,
to know right and wrong.
you get into the realm of animals, right? Is it
Yeah.
immoral for a cat to kill a bird?
No, it's not.
It's sentient.
So then, if animals, if it's
No,
not moral,
no,
if
right.
if an animal cannot kill a bird, now we're gonna get into this. If
Go
an
back to
animal,
objects.
hold on, if an animal killing a
Go
bird,
back to
hold on.
objects.
If an animal killing a bird
Uh-huh.
is not immoral, then are animals innocent?
Or I would say so. Yeah.
Why?
It goes back to.
It's in their nature.
It's like free will.
Well,
They
yeah,
have
but
free will.
Yeah.
why?
So it's in their nature.
How can
if you
animals-
create an object that's meant to make people suffer,
It's
it's in its nature.
Then we gotta go.
But it has no sentience.
No, it
you know,
doesn't, because you're comparing human
If
beings.
we're going
yeah.
biblically, if we're
Okay,
going
so
biblically,
cats don't have sentience per se, not that we know of.
so we gotta go biblically on this one.
I'm not Egyptian.
So-
So I won't argue that.
According to the Bible, there was no death in the Garden of Eden. There was
Yeah.
no death.
Yeah.
That means lions weren't killing.
Carnivores were eating plants.
Hey,
whatever
we
it
see
may
great
have
white
been,
sharks
Hold
eat
on.
algae.
Yeah, that's what
whatever
I mean,
it may
right.
have been, dude, whatever it may have been, there was no death. There
Okay.
was no death. Okay.
Okay.
And Adam and Eve, they ate the fruit.
Eve.
Even Adam.
Thank you.
Even Adam ate the fruit of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
And after that, death came into the world.
Yeah.
Right? So really, it's on the man.
To kind of go completely off here, but is it that death was introduced then, or the
Yes.
acknowledgement
No.
of it?
Bible lore, there was no death.
There was
There was no death.
Well, the concept,
or anything like that.
the
They were
concept
eating,
of
like,
death- the concept of
plants
death
and
existed.
vegetables.
One lady ate an
I don't
apple.
think so.
Yes, it did,
And
because
it
God
fucked
said
up
if you eat of it, you'll die. The concept of dying existed,
Maybe, sure. But there was no death.
but there was no death. But the concept existed, and they knew what it was because God said to Adam, "If you eat it, you'll
that
day you'll die."
makes sense. Yeah.
So
Concept of death existed, but
the
death
concept.
itself did not.
okay, but then again, I mean that. Okay, how does that tie into objects? You know, the ethics of an
it's
object.
it's a
The
weird
virtue.
question, is what I'm saying. Like,
It is a weird question, but that's
it's
why
a
she
very
asked.
weird question.
What's a weird question?
What you said?
If objects
Can a
have-
cat is a cat
Innocent.
right?
Yeah.
I would say it is
So, okay, if you're
because
If something's
before the
innocent-
fall of man happened, there was no death.
so
right?
then wouldn't it be guilty?
I don't think so.
Right? Because
Killing
now
a
it's
bird.
now it's
Now it's
partaking
in.
in the things that are
In
not
the sin.
from
Well,
paradise.
Well, I mean, if
but
the context
it was
is-
just more like an aftermath of what man.
Okay, so there's a side effect, right?
it's a side effect, but animal isn't guilty of it.
Okay,
It's the man that's
so
guilty.
it's innocent. So animals are innocent.
I would
Okay,
say
so
yeah.
can something be innocent without the ability of being guilty?
Wait, say that again?
Can something be innocent without the ability to be guilty?
I would say man is guilty.
No. Can something
But
be
cat is not
Okay,
guilty.
Can something be innocent
without the ability to be guilty?
for indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely, yeah.
Object A, whether animal, man, whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
cannot be guilty. Does that make it innocent? Or do you need to have the ability to be guilty in order to be innocent?
Yeah. How can you be guilty, or how
Can
can
you
you be
divorce?
innocent?
Can you divorce the two?
Exactly. Can you be innocent without ever having the ability to be guilty?
Isn't that called like?
It could,
You-
because we're talking
that-
things outside of man, I think it can be innocent.
But can it be guilty? So my position
I don't
is
think so.
Are they oblivious? Do they choose to be ignorant? Do they really?
But that-
I mean, you got chimpanzees.
do they really know?
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Do they really know?
Howling and
You
shit.
know what I mean?
Like
So
with animals, one thing that's different from animals and man is that man can act against.
okay, so then
its
how can it be
instincts,
innocent? How can it be innocent?
right?
Well,
What is it guilty of?
You're talking about intent.
What is it
I do
guilty of?
something
I'm not saying
with
it's
intent.
guilty. I don't think it's either or. I think they just are. Like
Are what? Guilty?
they just exist.
That's, that's what I would say.
Yeah,
They're animals.
They're animals.
Now, if you're
I
talking
don't think
about,
that
like-
they can have innocence or guilt.
But if you're talking about
Yeah, that's not something they weigh.
like a
That's why I said it
orangutan.
was a weird question.
Yeah,
dude, like,
but it's an important question.
We were talking about objects.
But
That's why you.
Yeah, that's what
confuse me.
we're coming
Exactly.
back to.
Exactly. So
You're
if
talking about animate objects or inanimate objects?
Thank you.
That cup, this table,
Right.
that dresser. If you're talking about animals, then yeah, we can talk about.
yeah, those are just are like
they
just
just
Like
are.
say, is that,
they
can that,
are.
can that
But-
cup be?
But I feel like squirrel.
No,
So that brings us back to the original question.
because they have intentional origins.
What
A
has
cup
an
is
animal
a cup is meant to hold liquid.
The maker makes that with an intention, so it has an inherent purpose.
Sure.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so are you saying that inherent purpose has nothing to do with like the
Objects
the
exist.
virtue
I think they
of
do.
an object?
I think purpose.
Okay, so if this has an evil purpose,
Uh-huh.
it's not evil. It's not an evil object.
If it
no,
has,
no,
if
I
it has
can
an
see.
evil,
I can be on board.
if
with
it
that.
has an evil purpose, is it an evil object?
Is it an evil object?
Can
I
I separate the object from the creator? Is that
No,
what
no,
you're saying?
You can, but it
Well,
still has a
expand-
purpose.
Expand. Okay, so does a knife.
Right.
No, it doesn't because
That's it. No.
No,
I
because-
don't think you can say a gun is evil.
that's not what I said.
no,
I
no,
didn't
but,
say
but,
that.
but
We're talking about objects.
we're talking
Yeah,
about objects.
but that object has a specific purpose that you can attribute to either good or evil because it also has defense.
Sure,
Like
but
a
that's what I'm.
knife.
A knife does too. Yes, but
A hammer.
there's some objects
so
that
you can't attribute an object of calling it evil
I
object.
think you
or
can.
if
A Ouija board. I think a Ouija board's purely evil.
What do they call those? The iron bowl.
Yeah, Iron Bull.
What's an iron bull?
It's the torture device where
yeah,
they shove somebody in it and they cook them.
It's a bronze bull.
But
They
yeah,
cook you
it
inside
all-
of a
it
bowl.
all-
Well, you
it
can
all-
make it. You can use it to cook like
But it all
food
goes
for
down
like
to
people.
the creator.
You know what I mean?
It all goes
You know
down
what
to
I mean?
creator.
I think
about
it goes
the
down
cross?
to its purpose.
No,
Not
I
just
think
the
it goes.
creator
no,
because you say
A necklace with
that's
a
what
cross.
Yeah,
on it.
bro.
yeah,
You say Ouija board
I think
and
I
you
think
think
so.
about like
See,
the
I'm on board with-
origin.
No, but the
Listen,
Ouija
hold
board
on,
can.
hold on. You say Ouija board, but like
You can learn how to read with a Ouija board.
But
That's what I'm saying,
But
dude.
like, where did the wood come from?
Yeah. It could
You
be
know
the
what I mean?
holiest wood, bro.
Who created the wood?
No.
And are you gonna like?
As Christians, you can't. We know what a Ouija board's for.
We know, but
You
we know
can't-
we know the elements that it's made
Yeah.
out
So
of.
so
are
then
not-
is it evil or not?
I think the person who made the Ouija
Yeah,
board.
I
is
think
evil.
I think
Yeah,
I
But
have
think
my,
about it
That's
like
it.
this.
I think I have
What'd
my
you make it
answer.
for?
Yeah, I think that's the answer. That's what I would say. Is objects are amoral. But
Objects-
we as humans
Yes.
ascribe intent.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying. Like if you
So-
go ahead, my bad.
You can continue from that and say the object is amoral, but it was designed for evil intent.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So then
Right.
So you can't call it evil.
so isn't
Yeah,
that
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
that like I think that's like virtue ethics
Because everything
Right, it's like
everything was
intentionality.
created by God and everything was good. Right?
Amen.
Is everything
The
good?
molecules
Not
itself
anymore.
isn't evil.
He said not anymore.
Not since even Adam.
Not since she had to be equal, didn't she? Well, it's not good no more.
No.
Like I think
You're always arguing for its utility. I mean, I could design knives, and people could use them to stab others, but you can also use them to cut.
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's still
Yeah, but
good.
so-
Am I
you know,
do
that's-
I intend for people to stab other people
It's
with
it's
it? It
man
just
that's
seems,
But-
evil,
but-
not the
it seems
objects.
to
But there's some objects
the knife
that
is
don't
amoral.
have any utility apart from
Suffering.
unmerited harm and suffering. By unmerited, I mean non-defensive.
That's not the object's fault.
Highly addictive drugs, fentanyl.
Yeah, fentanyl. Right? Like, you don't think that that's an evil item? You don't
I
think
think
that?
the person that designed it.
You think
I
that?
think the abuse, the abuse of fentanyl.
I think that the person
But
who
yeah,
designed it
but you're talking about
you can use
accountability.
fentanyl for some good.
Okay,
For
so
some good.
there's some drugs that are out here that are really fucked up and aren't used for anything other than getting high, right? So I agree. Now I'm torn, right? Like I don't have an answer, but I'm exploring the answer. I think that if the maker had ill intent or godless intent, they imbued some of that intent within the item, and that item has cursed. That item has those characteristics.
This is why I asked if you're Chinese.
Think about it like this: the dude that invented dynamite,
it was done for mining.
Exactly, like it had good intent, but
Good?
dude, people used to die all the
So
time.
mining is good.
I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Okay, just
Mining is
wondering.
necessary.
Yeah, dude, it's necessary.
Okay.
Especially back. So like this dude, I think his name was Nobel actually. He invented dynamite to actually prevent people from hurting themselves while mining.
Yeah.
Let the explosion do bulk of the work, and then people can go in and then get the value.
Yeah, and then people start using it for
but that was the intent. So
For war, and then he made the Nobel Peace
For what?
Prize.
No, but that's the thing. Like
That's why he did it.
Yeah, that's
even
definitely why.
the intent of a creation could be good,
Yeah.
but it could be corrupted by
But that's not what
evil.
that's not what I'm talking about.
No, but you said the intent of a creator matters, right?
Yes.
And in this case, the intent was
Of course.
think there's
decent.
Okay,
There's
that's
equal,
fine.
There's equal part.
However,
to play.
in that regard, the intent was good.
yeah, it was good, but
That's fine, and it's used, and the shit's used for evil sometimes. That's fine. That's fine.
Right. But you can't call the dynamite itself evil because evil people are doing evil things.
Well, it wasn't intended for evil.
But that's what I'm saying, dude.
Okay,
you
so
can't call it dynamite evil.
But okay, so if the item was intended for evil, why can't you call the item evil?
I would still call. I wouldn't necessarily call dynamite.
So it needs
it's
to
not
be
alive.
it
There's
needs
two
to be
people.
alive.
There's two people: the people who created and the people who use.
Yeah.
And they both imbue whatever it is.
And the person that creates can't assume the intent, the
Of the
malintent of the people that are going to use it.
It's like you build a gun for me type shit.
Okay.
And then
Hold on. I don't know anything about that.
I'm just saying. I heard that you're capable of all that.
This is the word on the street.
You're an engineer. I just assumed.
Wait a second.
It was an
I'm
assumption.
not down for that.
It was an assumption. I have no evidence.
Yeah. All right.
This mirrors an argument that I absolutely hate in literary discussion, and that's the intent of the author and the way people read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said, I don't care how people read it. If you're an author and you wrote a thing in a certain way,
That's how it should be taken.
That's not necessarily how it should be taken, but that's what's important.
But it doesn't.
The way other people read it, I don't care.
So you're telling me Animal Farm was a waste of my time?
Damn, what a throwback.
He had better books.
This man
This
man really just wrote a farm story. It has nothing to
No, I mean that's a good point. It's like going to the art museum. What is the artist trying to convey? You know, you go to the
You
artist and
need
say,
some
well,
context,
you know,
bro.
I think it's saying this. I'm like, well, I mean that's fine with me, but everyone's going to have a different interpretation on.
Okay, so
Right.
objects are amoral. Everyone agrees here
I
that
would
objects are
argue-
I
amoral.
would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say
It's man.
I don't think.
man
Look,
is evil.
I don't think that is. To me, it's not self-evident that objects are completely amoral.
I think you are not wrong in that because I think as men.
Pick a side, dude.
Well,
No.
Yeah, what you mean?
It's like,
He understands why I'm asking.
no. I understand. If
Okay.
it's an object made purely to give people suffering.
A Ouija board, I think, is evil. That's why I think that this is not a self-evident.
The origins of where like the
So like voodoo dolls
I'm
are
saying
evil.
like the origins of what was used to build that shit is not evil though.
No, dude. The tree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think. No,
right,
of course not.
Right.
But once it's a Ouija board.
Intent and being.
Yeah, like so you don't think
right.
the cross that was going to be used to crucify Jesus, that's not like an evil item?
But that's
Is
why
it
that's
an evil item.
Yeah.
that's why it's so beautiful, though. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean
It used to be a suffering symbol.
yeah.
Now it's a symbol of
Resurrection.
grace and
Yeah,
resurrection. and-
Yeah, of course. But that's what I'm
That's
saying.
so beautiful.
It's not self-evident.
So
So,
beautiful.
I don't think that you should scoff at that. Fucking idiot.
You gonna have to make another one of those, man. Dude, might be a bang.
Okay, so then I think that Bruce isn't even entertaining this shit. He don't like this question at all. He thinks it's dumb. Okay,
No,
so
I mean it's
No,
just
but-
it's a term that you apply to human beings, not objects.
Yes.
That's probably where my
And I think ascribing good and evil to
That's like-
us
that's like
is
saying- that's like-
inherently a human thing.
But
Yeah,
it's a
it's
fun
like saying-
topic, though.
It is.
you
It
know?
is. It's
a fun
just like
topic.
you know
We're
the
just trying to have fun.
blame
like I
the
s-
gun. Blame the gun and not the human being.
no,
Yeah,
but that's not what that's
I know. It's
not at all.
It's
what I'm
stupid
But-
people
but you
with
said
guns
that-
that kill people.
We're going down this rabbit hole because you set the domain of our objects.
Yeah.
So I can pick and choose whatever.
Of course,
object,
yeah,
you know.
and anyone can use, but I think that argument right there, right? Okay, so the topic that we were going to discuss today
Fresh
was
off a Toy Story.
the topic that we were going to discuss today was
presupposition.
The phrase.
presuppositions, right?
Yeah.
And idioms and stuff like that. And one of the things that I noticed, like especially in media with all the presuppositions and stuff, is that they will use existing concept,
Type?
an existing archetype concept.
A popular one?
No, one that you're not aware of.
Okay.
And but they know that's true. They know that it's true.
Give an example.
And that guns are the problem and it's not people.
Right.
So why one of the reasons why I think that this question may be pertinent to that is because do they know that objects are not amoral? And that's why they say that guns, although they're wrong, I don't think it's the guns, but they know that objects are not amoral.
I mean, these are the type of people that argue for like
No, dude, I don't
rights
think
for objects and
yeah,
shit.
yeah, but
yeah, for furries. and-
yeah, they're gonna be given rights to fucking robots too, right? But
Oh, they might.
no, they will. It already happened in the Boston Dynamics that they were like kicking the robot to check its balance. People sent emails and said that that's cruel, and Boston Dynamics had to stop. They stopped that shit because
Wait,
they were getting
why?
because they were getting emails saying that it was
But the
cruel to take the
emails
robot.
aren't enough for a company
That's
like
how much
Boston
that's how much they
Dynamics.
capitulate. That's how much they capitulate to this shit. Anyways, now the thing is though, I recognize that they push shit like this knowing the truth, and not the low level people in media. I'm talking about the people who are planning
A couple
this shit.
steps above it.
Yes, steps above it. So the example that I wanted to bring, and I'm going to bring it up when we do have the real discussion, was gender is a social construct, right? Gender roles are a social construct. When we were in high school, that started becoming a thing, that gender is a social construct. And naturally, we were like, no, it's biological, blah, 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 right? Like, that's what we would say in high school. Now, the problem here is by arguing for characteristics of gender, you are already agreeing that it's real and it exists. Okay? We were too stupid when we were in high school to recognize that we shouldn't even be arguing about its characteristics without first acknowledging if it even exists and if it's even a real thing in the first place. Okay?
No.
So whenever they throw this shit about, oh, it's guns, not people, and we say no, it's the people, are we I'll take one. Are we then already presupposing that objects are completely amoral? All right? Are we already accepting the presupposition by saying no, it's people, that objects are completely amoral? That's why I say that you shouldn't scoff, because that's how they weaponize. That's what they're doing.
Right.
Okay? They throw an idea out at you, and then you start arguing for details of that idea without actually thinking about the presupposition that you've already accepted. For example, in the gender is a social construct. No, it's biologically driven. You already lost, because the goal is not to get you to agree or disagree that gender is a social construct. The goal is to get you to acknowledge that it exists in the first place. So if you start saying no, it's biologically driven, you already lost, and now you're arguing on their territory. So if they say, oh, guns this, guns that, and you say no, it's people, you already are accepting the presupposition that items and objects are completely amoral.
I'm not understanding how.
I agree.
How
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're coming from.
so how would you even battle that?
You have to. So okay,
But
the presuppositional war it goes both ways, and you have to be able to recognize when it's working in your favor. And a perfect example is whenever you are arguing with an atheist. Okay, when you argue with an atheist, they have to acknowledge that you're working off of the what is the word, the mechanism, I guess, of reason. The only way you can have a discussion is by working off of the mechanism of reason, right? So by even entering a discussion, they are presupposing that reason is what we're going to base everything off of. So the question is, don't even ask, the common question that Christians have against atheists is, where's morality? Like, where does morality come from?
yeah.
But that's lower level. You've already given them the presupposition that reason's where you're going to be working from. You shouldn't go to morality first. You should go to reason. Why is reason what we're going to be working off of, and not emotion or delusion? Right? That's what you should go with first. And why is that one important? Why is that the best? And best according to who? Best according to what? And then after that, you can talk about morality. So it works both ways. They use it against us, but we can use it back.
Yeah.
Right? But we have to be more clever. They use it more because they can make shit up, like they do with gender.
Yeah.
We don't make shit up. Right? We go
Everything's
off of,
already made for us.
we go off of a 2,000-year-old book, so it's very difficult for us to make anything up anymore, right? They can continuously make shit up, right?
Yeah.
Which is what they do. And they throw, they use science, which is a self-improving apparatus, to continuously throw it in your face that, all of a sudden, it's not 14 billion years old, the universe. Now we know, right? And now this whole next generation is going to be working off of the universe being 8 billion years old.
Yeah.
And then the next generation, the fucking next telescope's going to find out that it's 70 billion years old.
Yeah.
And so that's what they keep doing, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wanted to have the discussion. So when I asked the question about objects being immoral or amoral or whatever, immediately everyone was like, yeah. But, I mean, do you understand what that entails?
But we got to the similar conclusion though.
Yeah, but it's not self-evident. I don't think that it's self-evident.
I don't think it's self-evident either. You come in with a lot of presuppositions.
Exactly.
You have to work these things out, think about it, and then understand why you think a certain way. Because that's more important than thinking a certain way.
Yeah, so Bruce brought up the excellent point of a knife can be used for evil or for good, right? A gun can be used for evil or for good, and you can't be blaming the gun, you have to blame the people.
Right.
Right? Now, absolutely. And that may appear self-evident, but there are people who blame the guns. So
Yeah,
how
but
self-evident is it?
Those people haven't thought it through though.
Are you sure?
I would assume.
Don't assume that. That's what I'm saying.
But I feel like it's a pretty logical conclusion.
Is it?
I think so.
So
I'm pretty sure.
So why do half the population then think that it's the gun's fault?
Growing up, I feel like we were more of an outsiders. We weren't like more mainstream. Like,
Yeah, of course.
We like these topics that kind of force us to think. I remember a long time ago, Kevin showed me a video.
Dirty it up. It's a dirty martini if you want to put some olive juice in there. I recommend that. Share that with
Like,
you.
Thank you.
Kevin, long time ago, showed me a video that summed up what 10th dimension would look like.
Yeah,
And I was captivated by that. you know?
yeah.
And from then on, I read like brief history of time and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, these topics interest us, right?
Yeah.
Like we like to
Since
linger.
high school. Yeah.
No, we like to
Yeah.
linger on these things, you know,
Yeah.
and like that kind of forces us to think a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say most people aren't.
Yeah, of course not.
But that's the thing. Like
I understand.
so my
That's why it's not self-evident, right?
no, but they haven't done the work. Like they haven't thought about it.
That proves that it's not self-evident.
Yeah.
That proves that
If you have to put in the work.
if you have to put in the work to come up with the answer that it's not the guns, it's the people, and you see that 50% of the population is not putting in the work, and they're coming up with the answer that it's the guns, not the people, that means that it's not self-evident. I would say.
I would argue that they were taught that without questioning the teacher.
They were taught that, perhaps.
Yeah, they were programmed that way.
Perhaps.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, just because half the people don't come to a conclusion that 2 + 2 = 4,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Just because people deny that doesn't make that like
Not true.
maybe it's not true. You know what I mean?
So again, but you know, you just said, oh, maybe it's not true. So like, you're kind of like,
I'm not saying that.
no, I know, but you're kind of like, you are saying these things with an idea. You're presupposing that it's self-evident, that 2 + 2 = 4 is what I'm about to get at, right? So, you know, now, I mean, I don't want to get into if self-evident truths exist or not, but I think that the more you think they do, the more presuppositions that you're swallowing for no fucking reason.
Think about it like this. Like, everybody said Galileo was wrong when he said,
Do I get one? Or?
Did you want one?
Yeah, I
Dirty
said,
martini.
I said I wanted one.
No, take mine, bro. I'm good.
like Galileo was like, hey, yeah, we're like sun isn't revolving around
Straight.
us.
I want to drink it all.
You sure?
Yeah, it's okay.
Bro, I've had a glass already.
No, it's okay. I'm good.
It's
good,
about
though.
it's
It's
about
good.
getting to
Yeah,
the
it's
truth.
good.
Like
Yeah.
getting to the truth is like it takes a lot of work. It takes
Yeah.
a lot of brilliant men to make these incremental steps. Newton revolutionized everything, right?
Yeah,
Like he
yeah.
was the
Euler,
he
von
was
Mises,
the Einstein of back in the day, like right?
Hooke.
Like
Yeah, of course.
but everybody was like they all thought they all had bad
Yeah,
Presupposition.
presuppositions.
yes, and thought the wrong thing was the truth.
Yeah, so
But that doesn't make that.
so you're saying because they were taught that.
I would
Yeah.
say so.
Yeah,
They haven't done the homework, or they're
got it,
incapable
yeah.
of getting to the truth.
But they're accepting the presupposition nonetheless.
Yeah, but you can't
So you
say.
never thought about the. So hold on, you have never thought about the question if objects are immoral or not. Have you before today? Have you thought about that question?
I don't think so.
Okay, so whenever you heard the idea of it's not the gun's fault, it's the people's fault, you immediately agreed with that idea, right?
For me, I have.
Wait. You immediately agreed with that idea or no? Like if someone said it's not the gun's fault, it's the people's fault.
Uh-huh.
That was an idea that you generally agreed with,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like in your life. Okay
Right.
then. You never gave the idea of objects being amoral any thought. That was a presupposition. For you to accept the idea that it's people's fault, not guns' fault, you never even gave the idea that objects can be moral or not.
But I already came to a conclusion that was a similar question. Because I knew,
Okay, what was a similar question?
are guns bad inherently? Like that's being tossed around
Yeah, but-
here in the last 10 years. Like,
I mean, clearly, a gun is not.
but that's what I'm saying. See,
Yeah.
it's self-evident to you.
No, it's not self-evident. I've given it thought too, which is why I have this question in the first place.
Sure.
So clearly, a gun is not.
Right.
But that does not mean objects are amoral. It just means that object. So, and I understand.
I come.
Like,
I'll go back to it.
I think maybe on a very, very thin layer. Like, I see what you're saying. Like,
He's like, I have to squint
it's
super hard. to see
right,
what
yeah,
you're saying.
like a meteors crashing to
Yeah,
Earth. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
chances of
So
it.
so
Chances of it like.
I mean,
wiping
you
out the
believe in
population.
holy relics.
But that's what I mean. It has to be divine intervention type of shit.
Okay. So
And it's
what
like,
about
it's-
satanic
is
intervention?
divine intervention evil?
No,
Of
divine
course
intervention is not evil.
But I just think it's a majority of people that are thinking that way. They're blamed. You know what I mean?
As a Christian, you believe in holy items. The
I-
book is holy.
Yeah, for sure.
So then it's good.
Yeah.
So then are there evil items?
Yes.
But you just said that they're immoral.
Well, I'm saying that goes down to the creator. Now, if we're talking about items that
Are you going back?
no, we're going to the creator of these items. You know what I mean? These evil items exist, and it's like we know.
Okay, so are there satanic items in this world?
Are there evil people in this world? Yes. Yes.
So then there are evil items then. So then you don't think that all items are amoral.
Right.
So you think that there are items that are good and evil. Objects that are good and evil.
I can't be on board with that still.
That's fine. The Bible's good.
The Bible is good.
Okay, that's an
But
item
think about it
that's
like
not amoral.
But we know it's good because
I
God is good.
I would say
Type
that.
I understand, but that's an object that's not
I-
amoral,
I
and you
would
just
say
agreed
this.
with it.
I would say
Is
this.
it an object?
It is an object. It's a living word.
Gin martini. There's.
What do you think, Kevin?
I would say this.
1.5 ounces of gin.
Go ahead, Jay,
1.5
go ahead.
ounces
No.
of
It-
vermouth.
It's
Is
the
it
words that are in the Bible that make the Bible. You know what I
We're
mean?
about to find out.
It's not the ink itself. It's not the paper. It's not that. It's the words.
No, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like,
with love.
You could.
I disagree because it has to be transmitted. The word is being transmitted in that form. What is good?
But it's
So
the
make sure this
word.
isn't
Word.
amoral. That's what it's.
Right.
So set that down.
it's definitely not good.
I blew it a kiss before I fucking
Like-
dropped it off.
Jesus is such a weird being, bro. If you think about it, he's
course.
the God's word
Yeah.
turned into flesh,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There's something about God's word that's really, really good.
Yeah.
I would argue the
So
best.
so then its material manifestation is not good.
Here, I'll put it this way.
No, the words are good.
Because
you know?
I think the idea behind, because you can have a non-physical Bible, right? Is a internet page with the full Bible in it.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Well, the data,
Is
that
that
particular,
materially good?
that the material that has that data, because it has that data, yes, I would say it is good.
If you had a plastic-bound Bible
Mm-hmm.
manufactured in China, is that good?
Well, it depends. How many typos?
How many times?
How many typos does it have?
My point being, in this specific instance, I think you can remove the physicality and the idea behind what it is or represents.
Okay, so
Right?
It's like spreading communism, right?
yeah.
And someone writes it in a book.
Oh Jesus.
What's the intent?
Yeah.
To get people
Anything
to
that
believe
has
that
to do with
communism is
communism evil,
the
Bruce.
book immoral,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The
or is it
book
the person that wrote it
Both.
immoral?
Both are immoral.
No, I think it's one or the other.
No,
I think
no, it's
because
both.
he didn't have to write the book.
Why can't both?
Right.
Why can't? Yeah, Satan did. Thank you. Appreciate it. Satan wrote it. So, I mean, look, I told you that I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if an object.
you're not sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I can see where you would come from, but I'm still on board that objects itself are amoral.
I feel like it's hard to define because, you know, we can't really even interpret or understand, like, the plan that God has for us. So how are we able to interpret and understand, like, you know, these challenges that we have to deal with and analyzing if it was good for me or if it was bad for me?
Well,
Shit.
I mean, I think in terms of like, as it pertains to you, it has to do with your set of principles and how much you're adhering to the set of Christian principles at that point in time and further into it, right? So that's how you can assess if something's good for you or not, is if you have to break the principles or not break the principles, right?
Right.
So like, I think in that sense, but in terms of like an object's being independent of all of humanity, I think that it could be that it's evil, and it could be that it's good, you know.
But you're talking about certain objects.
Certain objects.
Imagine this.
Certain
I
objects.
just
So like if they found the Ark of the Covenant, would the Ark of the Covenant be a good object?
It'd be scary object, bro.
It'd be scary.
Maybe
It'd
it's
be
just
scary.
maybe it's just objects that conflict with people's discernment that are evil. You know.
The way I see it, it's similar to waves being
Yeah.
or
Like
lightning,
all- yeah.
waves or particles or whatever the hell the shit is. I believe objects are amoral, but I think by principle, because you're seeing things through a human lens, you almost have to ascribe.
You have to think that way.
You have to give it like the tint of good and evil.
Right.
There's an extra color there that you are
So it's subjective.
imbuing.
Yeah.
I do think.
Oh,
so.
very,
Subjective?
it's all subjective.
very.
Everything's subjective when it
Because
comes to
it-
man.
And
When it comes to man,
Oh, yeah,
an
I mean,
evil-
man.
Bro,
That's gonna piss me off.
an evil person sitting right here could
That's
very
so
much,
interesting. I'm more black and white on this matter.
Yeah, me too.
No, you said you were unsure.
well, he's unsure, but he's more black and white.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but you're
no.
talking about like amorality.
No, I thought you were talking about what Kevin was talking about. No, yeah, I don't know because like I said, I wouldn't say that a Ouija board is not
but that's
void of any ethics at all. As a Christian, I wouldn't say that.
Can
I
you
don't think
imagine
it's
a
for
Ouija
you to
board?
understand. You're not supposed to understand these kind of
Yeah,
things. You know
think
what
about it like
Perhaps that's true.
A
I mean?
Ouija
For real,
board.
because
A Ouija board exposed to someone without any culture, without any like knowledge of like.
Where is it going to steer them, good or evil?
I would say it depends on that specific
It's gonna
person.
teach
It's
the Chinaman
subjectivity.
English alphabet. You know what
I
I'm saying?
think it depends on whoever has that. Like I'm sure you, like you said, you could probably teach somebody
To
alphabet or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about the nature of subjectivity in a Ouija board, then it's good because I want to have conversation with a dead relative or something.
No, that's
Okay,
sketch,
Bruce.
bro. Bruce, that's sketch. That's
Come
sketch.
on.
Right?
No, I get,
How do you know that you're dead relatives?
I get where he's coming from.
It
with that, right?
it depends on your belief. If you believe in life after death and the function of a Ouija board, however they use it points to a certain name, and
Yeah.
I don't think my ancestors
I said
have
beliefs
the
are dangerous.
time right now. I think they're too busy doing.
Chilling.
They're chilling, bro. They barbecuing right
You
now.
think
bro.
they chilling right
It's
now?
I think
still,
they
like-
it's still an amoral thing to me
chilling,
because
chilling,
you look on the back of the
I feel
Ouija
like
board,
there's
it's
work to be
Hasbro
done.
brand manufactured in China.
absolutely, they use
It's
it
so-
anyway.
They
Breaking bread
It's
with
so-
Jesus.
they-
right now.
they-
Think about that.
And
think
but
people
that's
are
the
working
nature of
on it, bro.
subjectivity.
Which brings me back to when
Yeah, like if you're a moral person, you don't use it,
right.
right? I mean, and objectively speaking, every object in this house, from this table, has utility.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like knives, guns, Ouija boards,
Yeah.
dynamite.
We don't have Ouija boards in this house.
Good.
Yeah, okay, so back to like the animals. So animals are innocent. Everyone here thinks animals are innocent.
I think animals.
Yeah,
are
I
innocent.
agree.
I'd agree with that.
Do
Okay,
they
so-
intend to kill other animals?
Okay, so this one's directed to the Christians then.
Okay.
Okay, and this is why I don't think that you should totally agree with that premise. You should explore it first.
Go ahead.
When the flood happened,
Right?
did God kill all the innocent animals?
Like I said, it was a side effect of what man did. And okay, so I think the reason why they did
So
that.
the side effect of what man did was God drowning all these innocent animals.
They weren't. I don't think they were innocent.
But you just said
Hold
animals
on,
are
hold on,
innocent.
hold on.
You gotta be on my
hold on.
side, Drake.
Hold on.
Explore that.
Hold on.
Give it to me.
Like.
Do you
When-
know why
when
God
I-
flooded the earth, first of all?
Because man sinned.
No, it's a
Kind.
little deeper than that.
Is that not like what the?
It's the general.
It's the
okay,
general
It's
consensus.
because
Well, hold on, it's important.
it's
So-
because demons and Nephilim.
There were Nephilims at
Yeah,
that time.
because
And
they were breeding with humans. and
Yeah,
stuff
they
like
were
that.
like, there were like half Nephilim, half human babies coming out.
Yeah.
I just know that the world was fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, we talking like the city of Corinth was out here tripping. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like.
So because of that, God killed all these innocent animals.
I think so.
I think
yeah.
you call it
That's fine.
like I was saying, what is that? Divine intervention.
This
Type of
mirrors
shit.
this
Yeah.
mirrors
You know what I mean?
the CDC currently wiping out tons of chickens that are healthy because avian flu
Yeah.
is out right now. It's happening. This is why the price of eggs is really bad.
Yeah.
You know, that same argument that you talk about, like with the flood,
Yeah,
you know, is a good argument, like with the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know, the argument is, you know, whenever the flood came and wiped out all the dinosaurs, and it's important to know that the dinosaurs were, you know, in the Bible and part of the flood, because it shows you that, you know, that I forgot how to word it, but death came after sin, not like a meteor, random bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, random bullshit wiped out all the dinosaurs.
yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Like something happened there.
Yeah. It was a process. Yeah, a process occurred.
A process occurred.
Well, I mean, I think the process, the process is lined up with when Satan is over here arguing that you won't surely die, and then Adam and Eve eventually die, because the whole time aspect. Like God
won't surely die right now.
God did not mean right now, but He did say you were going to die. He didn't say you were going to die immediately. That right then, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of speaks to that death came as a process.
That type of shit.
Yeah. So of course.
To the point that God killing innocent animals.
So you think that God killed all these innocent animals?
Yeah.
I don't agree. So first off, this is what I think Christians should do. Is that they should just be like, yeah, and so what?
And no.
Right. I think Christians should be that way. Yes, so what?
But we as good Christians should also wonder why God may have done that.
Well, yeah, of course. But I also think that you should push back. If you were to hear this argument, you should push back on how they're innocent. How all these animals are innocent. Explain to me how they're innocent. How would you know if they're innocent? Right.
For those of us who do believe that animals are innocent, why?
So when God in the Garden of Eden, God gave responsibility to Adam to like be a warden, be a good warden of nature,
a steward of nature,
And man fails to do that, dude.
Yeah.
So the cause of all the innocent animals dying was a fault of man, is what I would say, because there are responsibilities.
Okay, so how do you know, and why do you think animals are innocent?
They don't have free will.
How do you know?
I think they're amoral beings.
Well, because just from like looking at shit, like just from analyzing shit, bro. Like, you ever think about like an animal's instincts, and you're like, how the fuck does he know how to do that now? And
so
you know what I mean?
So here's the thing. Here's the thing about innocence in animals, especially. You can't prove it.
My only argument
if a naturalist,
why can't you prove
because
innocence through patterns?
How do you know that pattern is the innocent pattern and not the guilty pattern you're observing?
Yeah, you can't know that.
Yeah,
but,
you can't. How do you know?
Animals don't have souls, dude. They don't have the responsibility of making choices.
How do you know that they don't have? Okay, so then how can they be innocent? If they don't have souls, how can you be innocent?
I would argue that they don't know God.
Amen. And so they can't be
they
moral.
Not operate that.
So then
there's no morality.
How can they be innocent then?
Because there's no morality to their being.
Then they just are.
Yeah, we can say that. I'm okay with that.
That doesn't mean that they're innocent or guilty.
Sure, I'm on board with that. That's a more fair argument than us trying to define if they're
innocent, because you can't prove that they're innocent.
So they are amoral then.
Yes.
I think
if you're amoral, that doesn't mean that you're innocent. You're nothing.
Right.
You're not guilty.
Are they not innocent if we fucked up and they did nothing wrong?
No.
But for real though.
Well, they don't have a responsibility to do anything.
So
yeah, that's what it is.
So
like, why aren't they innocent?
Because there's no how can you be innocent?
They're not guilty, but they're closer to innocent.
Yeah, they'd be closer to innocent, but I don't think that you can say that they're innocent because, first off, you can't prove that they're innocent. Like in this case, innocent of what? Well, of following a natural pattern, right? Or the optimal pattern. You can't prove that animals are following an optimal pattern.
What do you mean by optimal pattern?
Well, is it the most peaceful? Is it the most harmonious?
A pattern of behavior.
Pattern of behavior. You can't prove that.
I can't prove what.
I mean, probably a panda does. All it does is eat fucking bamboo. Hurts nobody. Okay, so maybe the panda is completely innocent, but you can't prove.
No, the panda's Chinese.
Oh, damn it!
Sorry.
Bruce, what do you think? You're sitting there quiet, looking at us like we're retarded.
No.
He's like, all these motherfuckers are guilty.
No, I mean, you already came to my conclusion. I don't think they're neither
Okay.
guilty nor innocent. They just I mean, as far as any behavioral scientist could study an animal's patterns,
Yeah.
right? If you read the behavioral scientist,
Piaget? No.
Piaget's one.
Bill Nye.
What's his name? Skinner.
Skinner?
Skinner.
Yeah. So I mean, pigeons. I've seen a pigeon pick up a half a loaf of bread,
Yeah.
and then drop it in the road, wait for the car to run over it to break it up, and then started eating it that
Are
way.
you sure it was waiting it to car to run over to break up the bread and not to cause a flat tire and an
He's
accident
saying
for there to
you
be
can't
less
prove-
humans?
He's saying
Evil.
you can't prove
Evil.
that process.
Yeah, no, I didn't say you can't prove that process. You can prove processes
But
that
that's what-
they're taking part of,
yeah,
but you
that's-
can't prove that process
Has a certain motive.
you can't prove the intent.
Yeah, the motive
Behind
is
that-
to survive.
Yeah, for them,
Yeah,
that's
but-
the main thing with
okay.
animals.
Is it
yeah.
That's the motive is to survive, but are they stepping out of the bounds of what they
They're
should
not,
be doing?
They're not dealing
That's
with
just- that's their
ethics,
condition.
bro. There is no.
Okay, if there's no ethics, how can they be innocent of
You know,
having a
Because
responsibility
I'm
to
doing
carry
the
out?
thinking for them. They're like they're innocent. You know what I mean? If they don't think they're innocent, I'm gonna say they're innocent.
that's interesting because animals, most of the time, they do things to survive, right?
Yes.
Humans are.
So whenever-
we got survivability
because like you were saying,
down. dude.
Whenever
We got
baboons,
that down,
whenever
bro.
baboons devour their young, that's innocent still. That's innocent.
That's
I
nature.
would say
That's natural.
That's nature.
That's
Amoral.
natural.
amoral. Yeah, I
So
think
that's-
Certain
that's
troops, like with
Okay,
with
so-
monkeys, because they're so violent. I think Sapolsky had he gave a story where I think the alpha baboon wanted to take over like the tribe, and what he did was he challenged like the head baboon, and when he was coming at him, the baboon grabbed like the infant and did this because it was going to throw him off,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then dropped the baby. It turned out that it was his own child.
Oh,
just
what a
couldn't tell the
dumbass.
difference.
What's dumbass,
Kill.
bro.
Okay, so why is it okay for animals to do that and they're considered innocent, but humans can't do that?
Because
Well,
we're
Well, hold on. Do you think animals are innocent? Do you think they just?
that's not. No, I mean,
They do it.
Because
I look
Yeah.
You just
at.
presupposition you. a
I
question.
did.
Yeah.
I
look-
did
I
just
look at-
presupposition.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I look at behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
well,
where I would start from.
okay. So at the beginning of the
Is that
discussion,
moral or is that
well,
amoral?
at the beginning of the discussion, you agreed that they're innocent. Did you
Agree
not?
that what are animals or objects?
Animals. That animals were innocent. At the beginning of this discussion, everyone basically said animals were innocent. I was the only one
I
questioning it.
determine innocence by actions,
Okay, so is that baboon guilty?
not guilty.
Well, let me challenge.
The act itself was amoral.
Yeah.
Okay, because when you look at animals itself, you're looking for some form of sentience. So we're talking about like monkeys.
Yeah,
They
What would-
exhibit
what
some
would-
they
type
work
of
under different
intelligence.
laws.
What would prove sentience in this case?
Behavior.
What kind of behavior would
That
prove
behavior.
So that behavior proves sentience? Them dropping the baby in
Yeah,
order
because it even though it couldn't make the distinction whether it is child or
It's a couple steps, right? It's
Right.
like do A to accomplish B.
right.
to... Okay,
Then that's
so
that's
then it
what
has
you're looking at.
sentience. So
That's
then,
what
is
you're
it guilty, Bruce? Is that baboon guilty?
Doesn't know it's guilty.
It doesn't matter if it knows it's guilty. We know.
Why am
Well-
I judging the baboon?
The act I'm looking at
Oh,
does the behavior determine the individual?
Is it guilty or not?
No,
Why not?
because that's what it's doing. It's in that case it was doing what it thought was the right action.
Bruce,
Okay.
let me
Why,
ask you
wait,
this,
hold
bro.
on.
Humans do way
hold on,
worse
hold
shit.
on. What?
Absolutely.
So if a human did similar, is a human guilty?
Absolutely.
Why?
Why is that?
Bro, because we
Because
have,
because
we
we
can
have
think about right and wrong.
because we have a hippocampus, right, which
So
stores memories.
so brain anatomy is what determines innocence and guilt, or
What else
brain
would?
capacity.
What else would?
Soul.
Okay.
See, I said that earlier.
I think
Animals
a
don't have
soul
souls,
does.
baby.
But obviously,
So define soul.
a soul is
Yeah, I would say this.
a spirit imbued in you by a divine creator.
Right. God breathed life into Adam. That was the only creature that God breathed himself into a man.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a part of divinity in all of us. Animals don't.
No, I don't want to get too.
Well, yeah, it's
But
obviously-
that could be defined
Well,
as
yeah.
soul though, like
But
part
I'm not,
of divinity
so,
in
so,
us.
So, okay, we also want to explore it in secular terms as well.
Right.
Okay, and this is what I try to do all the time because I know a lot of people don't agree with Christianity, and I know Bruce has stated multiple times that he works within the sandboxes, and I respect that. So let's continue. So you think that, or you would say that innocence and guilt is determined by the capacity and the anatomy of the brain.
Because the brain, depending on how it's been modulated, right? The first
By
20
by
the environment-
evolution?
by the environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like baby innocence.
You know.
Okay.
The,
Okay.
the
So
difference
Oh,
between
are
human
babies
beings.
innocent?
That's what I'm saying.
Are babies innocent?
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
of
they're neotenous for the first 9 months.
okay. So
Animals don't have that. They
don't develop
horse-
past that point.
Yeah. If they don't,
I mean, kangaroo
evolution
babies
has
are
designed them
pretty
to.
monotonous. So
Yeah, I seen a baby alligator hit a death roll on a piece of chicken. How, bro? You know what I mean?
That's lizard brain shit.
Bro,
okay.
How?
So
You know
so Bruce, so
who
earlier.
taught this nigga? You know what I'm saying? It's completely
So
natural.
earlier, you were saying that animals are
That's
not
so
guilty or innocent, right? So how do you see? So as humans on an individual basis, then, right? For you, a human is either guilty or innocent.
Absolutely, because we have a law system. You guys have the
Oh, I see.
the 10 Commandments. You have.
So we're guilty of our own system that we bound ourselves by.
Not our own
Right.
system. It's our
If
own
you're talking
like,
about
way of
like
thinking,
if you're
bro.
talking about morality, a child learns not to touch the stove because it's hot, but it can't make the distinction between hot and cold until it touches the stove.
Yeah.
Usually the parent would intervene and say, "Don't touch that," but the baby doesn't know language,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Although it's about mimetics, and
Yeah.
they eventually learn language.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes the father may, the child when the parent's not looking may touch the stove and it burns, and then it makes that association that
Yeah.
stove is hot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the association whether the stove is on or off. It looks at the stove and says, stove may be hot, but I just don't touch it.
Yeah.
And he carries that knowledge
Until he
from
gets hurt.
experience
Yeah.
through adulthood. And then it just continues learning. So when you look at animals and you know right and wrong as a human being, that act of dropping them, it was funny, but at the same time,
Yeah.
Sapolsky was like, they're extremely violent.
Yeah. Yeah. They
You
are.
know?
They
'Cause
are.
I think you mentioned
Yeah.
that certain baboon troops are like extremely violent,
Yeah.
but there has to be like cooperation amongst them.
Right. There's some
In
kind
order
of
to
order.
survive.
Okay,
Mostly
so-
in the
so-
animal kingdom, there's a just like your every organ in your body is dependent on something else in order
Right,
for you
right.
to
Yeah.
survive, right?
So then, what
But our organs aren't amoral. They just
what would it take for a baboon troop then? So, okay, we wouldn't be able to be the ones to determine if a baboon, regardless of what point they are in their evolutionary process, we would not be able to determine if they're innocent or guilty.
no, because the people that go out there and live with them are studying them.
Yeah.
It's different than say like a trained dog. You can train a dog to sit and fetch and but you don't train animals in the wild to do that.
Okay, so only
That's what's fascinating about it.
Only the entity that's within its own system and environment can determine
Yeah, because the environment is
guilt. So
Oh, that's a
I
great
see.
point.
Okay.
You do have animals that kick out their own.
Right, dude.
For
There
failing
are
the
so they have their own
right.
system of guilt and innocence. So
It's just it's whatever you want to call it.
Right.
The lion.
That seems to be the
yeah.
pattern.
So
of
what
it.
that's what
the
that's
lion.
what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
So
the
then-
lion killed the other alpha, right? Because it was, I guess, messing with the lioness, and the first thing it did is it went and it killed all the cubs.
Yeah.
You know,
So then
when you look at it, is it amoral?
Right. Or the great white shark babies ate, you know, how they eat each other inside of the mother's stomach.
yeah.
That's terrible, but that's
Well, terrible in what
Well,
way?
yeah, why is that terrible?
Yeah, terrible in what way?
Because it's life. I mean,
Life
That's
is
just-
terrible?
It's
no,
terrible.
It's not.
the loss of it.
Oh, the
type
loss
shit.
of life?
The loss of it is terrible type
Yeah,
shit.
they kill
Why
like
is the loss of that life terrible?
Because it's precious to us.
It's precious to us
Like
that,
you said,
all,
you
that
know,
all the great white pups
But it's
are
not. It's not.
birthed.
Yeah, but it's not.
That's not. I don't give a
I mean,
shit about all
I
those damn.
see where you're going.
No,
It's
but-
not like, oh,
but-
hey, you know, we need to. I'm gonna round up all the lions.
We need
you know,
to
and
give
put them like in
cesarean
a
section
zoo
to all the
and,
great
you know,
whites. This doesn't
teach the
happen.
lion not to kill the cubs
Well,
after they.
Let
It's
them
just
play
not.
nice.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's not
Christian
gonna
thing.
happen.
We're trying to look
Yeah,
out for
that's what
you
I
know.
mean.
It's hard. It's hard to.
That's ingrained in us.
Right,
Yeah.
but it goes back to what you were saying as
Right.
far as us being and needing to be accountable for life on Earth.
Right.
It's
Okay.
the people.
God
It's the
gave us
people.
that responsibility.
It's the
Right.
people on the
So
boat,
we are
right? Who
judging
went on
that.
a trip,
Right.
and they see a killer whale, right, attacking, say, like a humpback whale,
Yeah,
and the people are screaming and panicking,
yeah.
and the
Did you
marine
get that on
biologist
camera?
is saying that all the mother was doing is teaching this child how to hunt,
Yeah,
right? And then it puts everything like into perspective.
I see. So, okay. I mean,
Eventually, you
I can
say
see.
these behavioral patterns are quite natural with animals, and they're
You know,
just leave it at
So,
that.
this kind of
is
ties
there-
into
is
the.
there-
When human beings do it, no,
We had a similar conversation with like justice
yes.
when we were sitting out in the backyard.
Mhm.
We have our own set of laws.
Yeah, we were
that
talking about
make
the
us-
bats.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bats have their own
Yeah.
like set of laws.
So
that they
one of the
function
things
on.
that is interesting about like the flood wiping out all those innocent animals, we do that currently with like cane toads in Australia.
Bro, I do
Right,
that
we
with
do that
house
with
spiders.
mice.
Nigga, what you talking about?
So
When that anthill pisses
Where
me
they
off.
at, bro? Ah, fuck it up.
they're doing it with lionfish in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, dude, yeah, I've shown you some
I
videos.
mean, yeah, they're wiping out the entire like.
Well, they're trying to.
They're trying to wipe out the entire like species or the entire population of lionfish
Because they're fucking up.
because they're invasive species.
They're
Yeah.
invasive species.
So
Completely ruining
Asian carp in the U.S.
coral
There's
reef,
like
I
a kill order on all Asian carp. There's a kill order on any lionfish.
Wild
In-
hog.
Wild hog in Texas. In Australia.
Not just Texas.
Well, yeah. Okay.
It's the
So
entire south.
okay. In Australia, they do like the cane toad. They had a problem with like mice there.
Bro,
not
they
so long
had
ago.
something like that in Philadelphia. Some Chinese bugs came in and invasive.
Oh yeah,
You hear about
they're
that,
like
right?
these little beetles. They look like
Yeah.
ladybugs.
Yeah.
So humans
they made
will
a
take
message.
it upon themselves
Bro.
to wipe out entire species.
On the
I
news
agree.
channel, they were
Yeah.
like, if y'all see
I
these,
think we wiped
step
out.
on these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think we wiped
City
out like
order.
32 species have gone extinct.
Yeah.
I think the system nature is set up to where you
Not
have
done
your
yet.
no, just getting started.
And I'm hungry.
I mean, yeah, but
So the reason why I bring that up is because whenever someone argues about the whole situation of God wiping out all these animals with the flood, well, how come humans can do it with a whole bunch of cane toads or a whole bunch of whatever animal?
Right.
Now the argument will be, well, because those animals were incorrectly introduced into another habitat, right? So then the answer is, aren't they innocent? Right? If someone would agree that they're innocent, then now you're taking it upon humanity to wipe out all these innocent animals, whereas the broader argument against God is that He did the same.
Yeah.
Right.
well, they don't. I don't think they don't consider that to begin with. whether they're innocent or guilty. It's just
who does
they
it?
just do it. The people doing it.
Oh, no
Yeah.
one gives a shit about
That's what I'm
lionfish,
saying.
Bruce.
That's what I'm saying. They don't give a shit.
yeah.
Because you said, well,
Yeah,
you know, they're
you gotta be cute enough for people to worry about.
Yeah,
First of all.
yeah, absolutely. That
Oh,
matters.
100%,
That matters.
dude.
That matters. So,
I
but,
just think the ecosystem's set up to where you have primary and secondary consumers.
oh, of course,
nature
tertiary,
itself,
yeah, of
nature
course.
itself
And then
sorts
the
itself out.
producers.
But
Yeah.
you don't, like you were saying, we shouldn't interfere with that.
No, I don't think so. And I don't think so. Like, this is one thing that I've tried to.
Oh, we shouldn't interfere with what?
That the way the system, the way the ecosystem is like set up.
Oh, right,
No, no.
right, yeah.
So
One of the
you're saying we shouldn't go after lionfish in Florida?
No.
Well-
I think that he says that is interfering with the way the system is set up. That someone introduced lionfish into that area and they're
Yeah.
disrupting the system.
You're
example,
saying you're saying nature should balance itself out.
Nature does it regardless.
Well, aren't we
Right,
part of
right.
nature?
Everything is compost. I mean, you see dead animals, the vultures are right there to clean it
Yeah.
up.
Aren't we part of nature? Can't we take it upon ourselves to clean
Well, like you
shit
said in
up?
the Bible, we should be better stewards of animals and
But he
nature.
made us part of the.
That's why we developed 308 for the hogs. You know what I'm
So,
saying? Like,
so I struggle with this whenever people I really don't like slaughterhouses type shit. That shit is crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's a little
They
weird.
they
what we
mis
do.
they mistreat the hell out of these animals.
for sure.
Now
for flavor.
again, I
The antibiotics, bro.
No, I'm being serious.
this is Jesus, Kevin, please don't.
No, there's cultures who believe that if you torture the animal, it
I
becomes
know
more
that there's
flavorful.
some cultures
It's
that
like
believe
it's
that.
like
Really?
the, it's like
I
a,
thought it makes it worse.
it's like
Well,
adrenochrome.
other cultures think it makes
Ain't
it
it like
worse.
adrenochrome, Carla?
Adrenochrome,
Like, you know,
adrenochrome.
You
Yeah.
scare the children first and
Yeah.
it makes their blood richer.
That's anti-Semitic.
He probably needs to drink more. So he doesn't say anything, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah. You need to drink. You need to drink every.
he
single
drink
time.
every time.
Anyway,
I mean,
so,
if we do it
so
here, we can do a little sip. You know,
I'm a huge proponent for like treating animals with respect, and since I believe that, now again, this is another one that I'm not sure about that they're innocent or guilty. I believe that they're just neutral. That
I'm
they're not.
on board.
They're not innocent or guilty.
Okay.
I believe that they're neutral. No, but again, like I said, I'm not totally 100% on that they're neutral.
What if-
Okay?
what if-
I'm leaning more in the neutral or innocent,
Bro,
right?
what you mean by neutral, bro?
That they're neither innocent
Yeah,
or
yeah.
guilty.
I can. Amoral is what he's saying.
Okay.
They're not moral creatures.
Yeah.
Is what he's saying.
So they can't be neutral or guilty
Yeah, we are the ones that determine that type shit.
well, God, right? God
through
determines.
their behavior.
God
But I mean,
determines it, right?
Right.
you run the same experiments, like if you study Piaget with like rats, because rats are capable of metacognition,
Yeah,
right? I mean, we had a rat in our store,
yeah.
you know, and
Just
I'm
stop it
telling
out,
them,
Bruce.
no, and we're telling them you're not going to find it,
Yeah.
you know, and for
Unless you
4 or
said
5
traps.
months, no, they didn't work.
Oh no.
Some of them are too
When you
smart
say
for
yeah,
that.
exactly. When you say metacognition, it knows its patterns.
Yeah.
It knows where to go, and when you look at the traps, it's avoiding like all the traps. It was so good it would get the cheese out of the trap without setting the trap off.
He's like,
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was doing.
like on Count of Monte Cristo with the water. Remember?
Yeah, but they do those like when you design the mazes, you know, and the exit is here, you know, and you cut the maze off just to see what the rat would do,
Yeah.
you know. But you know, it goes through one pattern to the exit, and then the next time they redesign the maze to see what
Yeah.
the rat is going to do,
Yeah.
right? And the metacognition means that it actually remembers like the patterns.
Yeah.
They run this simulation like 10 times. And
Huh.
like maybe 8 out of 10 times the rat starts to remember the pattern itself. So it's like when it's in a store, it knows exactly where to go. They found
They say
its
that
droppings in one spot where they believed it was nesting at. They came back a week later, it was somewhere else. They created like a different nest.
do rats have like that hive mind mentality? I hear it's almost like global.
They're very communal.
Like
I
you
know
could
that.
Yeah,
you
they're
could start
communal.
one experiment on like California, and it's almost like they.
No.
It's
That's
almost like there's a communication.
that's-
And then you could start
that's
one in
like
New
the-
York, and they almost do like the.
that's like the idea that
You know
like
what I'm talking about?
yeah, but it doesn't have to do with experiments. It has to do with like and it's with all animals. It's like with orcas and dolphins that like one set of dolphins down here learns a new hunting method, and they never.
Like the whole.
And then like the whole ocean is filled with dolphins now that know that hunting method.
because
Like,
of the echolocation.
I don't know if that's what that
they
is.
communicate. They
They tell each other,
communicate.
yo, hey, these yellowtail tuna out here slipping at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
There's some similar that happens with humans too.
Yeah, like the Olympics. Like whenever records are broken, that record gets broken many times until there's another stunt. Like a stopping.
Also, Mozart was the first prodigy in music. Once Mozart happened, bunch of different.
Same thing with the
prodigies
invention of
happened
the plane, bro. Like at the same time. So this is what's crazy about the invention of the plane.
Is that a standard being said, or is that
dude?
like,
So this is one
that's
thing.
the weird thing.
This is one thing. This
It
is
goes
one
to
thing.
discovery.
This is one thing that I was telling my wife, and I mentioned it to another friend before that. Sometimes I get the feeling that there's like a fabric that's like tying all humanity together, and when humanity levels up, the fabric comes up, and like now
that
everyone.
sounds almost like a string theory.
It's kind of like a string
It's
theory.
like when the iPhone came out, it was over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, dude. Well,
It was
like
all downhill from there.
It's the same thing with AI right now. You know what I mean? Like it just
when the plane was being invented. Well, I mean, like, look, the pyramids all over the world in the ancient times.
Yeah.
How? Why? For what?
The concept of the dragon.
The concept of the dragon. All
What's
over
the
the world.
concept of the dragon?
That's weird.
That dragons exist in
Are
all these
universal,
ancient.
dude.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Yeah. So
But
why?
dragons
How?
are dinosaurs.
Yeah. But how?
Because
why?
it's like you would look at like the
Same
video,
thing with
like
the
the
invention
video
of
I
the
showed
plane.
you. Like
You know,
you
like-
would look at the bones of an eel.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you wouldn't think that this motherfucker can electrocute you.
Yeah.
And then you would
Yeah.
probably look at the bones of another lizard. You wouldn't think that it would be able to breathe fire.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
same way you would look at, like I was saying, electric eel. Like it's
Yeah.
Or Komodo dragon.
or you know what I'm saying? Like you.
Shit.
The
Them
Komodo dragon has some dirty mouth, bro.
Yeah, dirty mouth.
Dirty
And they
mouth.
actually have venom. It's not just saliva.
That's that
I think.
poison breath, bro.
Oh, dude.
Bro,
got
they may be
dirty
ancestors
mouth,
of dragons, low key.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you never
You
know
see
these
the
things.
videos of the people, like they break the goat's leg, and you see the dragon like eat the goat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But when you read the comments, people are like, "That's so amoral. That's just so wrong for them to do something like that."
Why?
Who are you asking why?
Well, because you want clicks, you want views.
Why is that wrong? Why is getting clicks and views wrong?
Because what do you mean?
Well,
Why is clicks?
Why? Well,
What do you mean?
why break the goat's leg?
Yeah,
You know, on
Why?
purpose
Why
to get
not?
people to watch.
but the Komodo dragon's hungry and it's innocent.
Well, it's gonna
It
do.
deserves a meal, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine not feeding it and keeping it there. Of course, it's going to be hungry. Or another one where they took the puppy, and there's like a moat with alligators down it, and there's like a giant slope, and you take the
Oh,
puppy.
people hate shit with puppies or
Yeah,
dogs.
and then-
They hate.
So, but it's like saying, why is that wrong? And the puppy's
Right.
doing this, and
Well,
people are just sitting there just
well,
watching.
The reason why I say it's wrong is because it's disrespectful to.
Yeah, like
The
you
dignity.
gonna steal the food out my mouth?
Yeah. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the dignity.
I put in
of
all
the
this
animal.
work.
Both animals, really.
Of both animals, and what I mean by that is,
I
well,
would
what do
say
you
it's
mean
just
by the dignity? And what I mean by that would be it's regular form of being. Okay, typically, dogs are never going to interact with an alligator, especially not in that way. Like it didn't even have a choice in order to go to that watering hole, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I mean by the dignity of the animal. It's just disrespectful to that. And then on top of that, you're doing it for entertainment purposes, which is a lesser purpose than an entity's wanting and will to survive.
That, and you know how most people are going to react to seeing something
And
like that.
if-
You know, if you're aware of your audience,
Yeah.
right?
If,
You
if-
know what
if-
you're doing is wrong.
If someone were to ask me, how can you say that the life of the puppy is worth more than the entertainment of some people, then I would put it, and this is what I think that a lot of people need to do more often, is you need to put it in hard units. And I'm going to say in calories, okay? The puppy, its life took a lot more calories and resources to come about than whatever you gain in entertainment. Okay, so just by sheer secular material units, it's worth more. Okay, And I don't even have to bring God up or anything like that, or respect. I don't have to bring up any Platonic concepts at all, right? Anything, right? Like just sheer material secular units, the puppy is worth more than entertainment. And that's why it's disrespectful. And that's why it's wrong. So, and I think that people should do that more often, because consider
that.
What's up?
Consider that.
Consider what?
What you just said.
That more people.
The material units.
The material units, yeah. Yeah, people need to consider that more often, because if you start saying it's disrespectful, then people will say, well, how is it disrespectful? Well, it disrespects the dignity. Well, what's dignity? Well, dignity is its form of being. Well, why is its form of being more important than my entertainment? Well, I'll cut the shit, okay? It took a lot more units of material and time, to come about, and resources. And then if you start
is it right to play their game instead of
well,
we should just play our game.
Right? That's what I'm saying about the whole thing about whenever you say God, whenever you say, so what if God flooded those innocent animals? So what? That's our game. Mm-hmm. We have to start saying, so what? So currently, right now, there's a huge argument against slavery in the Bible. So, and this is a super touchy one, especially because of history, right? And is slavery objectively wrong? Is slavery objectively wrong?
Well, slavery in the Bible was a little different.
No. You don't have to take it there.
They're supposed to be a slave for 7 years.
It's not objectively wrong.
You can get out of it.
Slavery is not objectively wrong, because you have to be able to imprison people. People have to be able to pay back the offenses that they do, and that's effectively slavery.
And
so it's not.
And it's also, there are good masters and there are evil masters.
Those are bells and whistles. You don't even talk about that. That's irrelevant to what slavery is good or objectively good or bad.
I mean, if you want to take it back to the argument about natural, you have animals and insects enslave other insects, ants enslave other colonies, and you can't call them evil.
Yeah, that's true.
So the act in of itself is not inherently wrong. Now, once you start describing it to man, and you start getting into the question of the divine aspect of humanity, then you can start getting into whether or not it's
then
good
we
or
have
evil.
to think about being good farmers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, then you're talking about the is from the ought distinction.
Yeah.
If you say it's objectively, well, when I study slavery, you're talking about it's objectively right because people that were caught doing crimes
had to be held accountable.
No, I'm not saying it's objectively right.
Well, that's how slavery started.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
You went to jail,
Yeah.
or you went to prison,
Yeah.
or you went to an island. You were a slave because you were paying off your debt.
Yeah, for wrongdoing.
Right. Even Plato believed that slavery should be natural.
Yeah.
But
it is natural.
When we talk about ought people, should people, be slaves?
Yeah.
Well, like it says, it depends.
It
if
depends
you believe that people are beneath you.
Well, I think that what is it to be a prisoner if it's not a slave, right? Especially take it back to the whole justice and who does it serve? We said that it should serve the people first. So I'll take it back to the theft. In the Bible, it says that if you catch a thief during the day, he becomes a slave until he's able to repay back the victim. And if you catch him at night, he's executed. And I wholeheartedly agree with that whole sentiment. And that's why I don't think Christians should even entertain the idea of, there's slavery in the Bible. Again, so what? That's the game that... See, if you start arguing, slavery, it was a little bit different back then, you're already then ceding the fact that it's objectively wrong, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but you're also not educating them the context of
They don't want to be educated.
They don't want to be educated.
Right.
Yeah, but
there's a huge difference between
should
coming at you combatively and coming to you and saying, "Hey, what was slavery like in the Bible?" Completely different than,
there was slavery in the Bible. How can you blah 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 blah?
Slaves.
No, dude, there needs to be an aspect of slavery for any society. How else can criminals be punished? And should criminals be punished as a primary service to the government or as a primary service to the victim, as we discussed?
Right.
And if it's a primary service to the victim, they're effectively slaves. So
they're slaves either way.
They're slaves either way.
Right.
But in one way, they actually are. It's more valuable to society as a whole, and the other way it's only valuable to the governing body. You know what I mean? So that's why you shouldn't even take it there that, oh, it was different about, no, it doesn't matter how it was. It doesn't matter.
So you're saying it's naive to try and educate.
Yes.
Give the context.
Yeah.
They're not looking for education.
It's the same thing with, oh, so did God flood all these innocent animals? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what?
Yeah.
What you are not, no one's in a position to, first off, to say that they are innocent animals. You don't know what they were doing. You can't even prove that they're innocent. So if a secular materialist were to come at you and say, oh, he flooded all these innocent animals, prove that they're innocent, first off, because you're a secular materialist. You can't. So on and so forth, right? So that's how you play. And this is why I wanted to have the discussion about presuppositions, because all this is you accepting presuppositions. That's why you were saying, oh, well, it was a little different back then. You already accepted the fact that slavery is objectively wrong by doing that. And it's not.
No. I was trying to make the point that it's all about the context.
Yes,
I was about
but
to say that.
when you start doing that, you've already established a foundation over that supposition.
Yeah, maybe.
Are there two genders?
It's tricky. it's tricky.
No. See,
it's
but-
tricky.
Hey,
we already used the word gender, man.
No,
Hey.
but this is
I don't
the
think
thing.
gender's real.
you know what I mean?
Gender
I
doesn't
think-
exist. It's sex.
I think there's different objectives. I'm not trying to necessarily win an argument.
You should. This is why we're in the problem that we're in.
No, but this is more like
This
day to
is
day.
no.
This
Well,
is more
that's
like
no,
day
that's
to day. Like
Well,
I'm not on a talk show like
yeah,
where
yeah.
thousands of people are watching. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
the
it's
problem.
different.
That's the problem, though, is you can have proper discussion with people who are willing to have discussion, but there are times when they're not, and they're looking to just.
I think the majority of the time.
The majority of the time, they're not, and they're just looking at getting in that one end.
Right.
And it's fairly common if you have any type of acquaintance group. Don't go so far as friends, and topics come up, and it becomes competitive, and it's to an extent.
Right.
You gotta
Emotions
say
get riled up out of nowhere.
to an extent. It's like,
Oh,
listen, if you
dude.
want to get into this, I'll get into
one
it.
of my
but,
coworkers, she hates Elon Musk, dude, and it's so funny, dude.
Probably doesn't have an
It's
objective
so
reason
funny,
why.
bro.
You know.
Yeah.
And she probably, yeah, exactly. She doesn't exactly know why she wants to hate him, but she hates him.
Bruce, you have something to say? I thought you had something to say.
No, I was listening to.
Oh, okay.
And I just thought it was
Why
interesting.
does she say why?
Well, I don't think she's capable of really explaining.
I just.
Because I asked,
and then she launched back into X.
Logs back into X to say how much she hates him. Oh my god.
The conversation happened like this. One of our nurse practitioners, he uses Grok sometimes to like do quick research on like what the diagnosis was and how to like treat it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, Grok? Oh, I would never use that. I hate Elon Musk." And I asked her like, "Why do you hate him?" She just kind of avoided it altogether because she couldn't really articulate
Sure.
So
why,
I was getting. I got a
why
hair.
she hates it.
I got a haircut today, and we were talking about where we went to high school, and I was talking about how like our high school was well funded, and like it was nice, but there was still a bunch of idiots that didn't do a damn diddly and did horrible. We know people who got shot.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like who really just are in a really bad place right now, and they went to like a really, really pretty good school. And she was like, "Oh no, I think that schools need funding because blah blah blah." And I said, "No, I think that the primary thing should be the culture at home and the culture of interest in society in general. Like there needs to be a fostering of interest because it doesn't matter how many iPads or books or whatever you have at school if you don't have the interest." And she kept no, well, I think that if the food and blah 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 blah. And I was like, look, we just had a whole thing about people wanting to bring people from India because of their scholastic, prowess. And India's an impoverished country.
Yeah.
They don't have it. Our worst school is probably mid to top tier over there, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're doing pretty good scholastically, right? So that whole idea kind of destroys that argument of that the school needs funding primarily and this and that. And she was like, "Oh, I think both." But then when I brought up the whole thing about India, she really didn't have anything else to say. It was just kind of like, "Oh, well, I just think that schools need funding, and I was like, the home is what matters, and
That's why it's a waste of time to try to.
Y'all want to hear
argue.
something interesting?
yeah. Wait. Let Bruce finish what he was saying. What were you saying?
No, I'm saying that's why it's a waste of time to try to win an argument. I mean, people give either they give meaning to what you say or they don't.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's true.
So I spend more time like in the head.
Yeah, I pick up
Really?
on that shit instantly.
You know, it's I think he had mentioned something about I think slavery.
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, about it.
The context?
Oh yeah.
So I just I'd echo the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
that
just,
context matters, of course. Of
you
course
know,
it
it's,
matters. So what were you saying? Say something interesting, Jay?
Oh, our school district brings in $600 million a year from our taxpayers' money.
600 mil?
Dude, isn't that freaking crazy, dude?
Pretty wild.
No,
That's
Clear
how.
Creek?
Don't say that.
no surprise.
Nothing. You didn't say anything.
CISD?
You didn't say anything.
Hey, chill. It's on video.
Oh, are we recording, bro?
Yeah.
He's like, find me.
Come
He's
find
like
me.
XXX Fury Lane.
But dude, we're a rich district, dude.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that number, I was
Yeah,
like,
and like,
that
but,
is
but
freaking
bro, look at how
crazy,
many
dude.
peers literally just
Dude,
absolutely
that-
squandered it.
That's a year, dude. That's a year. It's almost $1 billion industry.
What
What
do you
is
mean?
money?
That's $1 billion in 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's crazy.
That's
I'm literally
What's
saying
the-
it's $1 billion.
what's the net
Were
worth of
these
that?
textbooks old as shit?
Bro, that's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
And here we were playing Halo on those computer labs.
Dude, you,
That's where all that money is.
Halo was fun.
Bro.
the Halo was lit. Dude.
What?
That's funny.
Comp sci versus the engineering team. Dude, that was crazy,
That
bro.
was fun, bro. That was fun. Bro,
Which hallway are you at?
yeah, that was.
Dude,
I mean,
isn't
that's
that a
cool.
baffling number?
That
though?
is. How did you find that out?
My cousin did, but like it's all public, so you could look it up.
Wow, that's
You probably
insanity,
can.
bro. That's insanity.
I mean, you can see the property tax and what that brings in.
Right, dude, because it's a big district.
Bro, I hear shit like that and I'm like, what is money and what the fuck is the end goal with all this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
$600 million is a lot of money.
Dude,
bro.
it's crazy money.
Like, that is
To be-
ridiculous.
To be fair, I think people have a pretty poor conception of money and the economy.
Yeah.
I do.
So,
Because I'm like, 600 mil, nigga.
Hey,
What?
hey, I will make good use of 600.
Bro, what? You know?
You know, I'll install water softeners in all of my friends' houses.
That's all you're gonna do? You cheap bastard, that's all you're doing, dude?
That's it? Nigga, you talking
You
about
will
years?
have the cleanest, softest water.
Clean water? Generational wealth? Nigga, you talking about some water?
Nah,
Yeah, but you can imagine
600 million,
how
bro?
wasteful we are. Like just in
Bro,
this
look
year,
at Doge. Look at everything that Doge is finding out. That's why, bro, that's why I said, I've been saying it. If you find somebody that's against what Elon Musk is doing, they're either retarded or evil. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I mean, it just sounds like a nice idea, right? I feel like it really should be a bipartisan thing.
how can you not be for finding out where all the money is going? How can you
So-
not be in support of that?
So apparently, Bill Clinton did the same thing. He fired like 600,000 federal workers.
Yeah.
The difference then, it was a bipartisan thing, and
Yeah.
they did it through the government.
Dude, Doge is through the government. So Doge
No,
is...
but those is supposed to be like a separate
No,
entity.
it's not. It's a repurposed Obama era department. Okay, I forgot what it was. It was like an IT thing that Obama created. Trump just renamed it.
Yeah, it's just renamed.
I see. But that's not how we know. Like that's another thing. Like
It doesn't matter, bro.
they're making it seem like it's a separate entity.
And they always talking about like
Bring-
we didn't vote in for Elon. We never voted
for cabinet workers.
We
you
never
don't-
voted for any of
Right.
the cabinet workers
Right,
ever,
right.
ever.
Right.
Not only that, no one voted for Kamala in the primaries. So what's
That's another thing that I feel like Democrats really messed up was Yeah, why do they do it like this? I feel like they just
They try to be sneaky.
they shot themselves in the foot.
They're cheaters, bro.
I think they were really arrogant enough to just say, "Hey, I think we got it with Kamala. We can do it."
I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. This is
There was something more foundational there, but
yeah.
I don't
This is
think
all
I'm equipped
ridiculous.
to comprehend it. But what do they say?
Unburdened by what has been undone.
That's one. That's one.
What the fuck does it say? Be unburdened by the undone. Or whatever the fuck this trying to create
When I thought you said something about idioms, so I thought you were going more.
So okay,
like
so I mean, yeah. So like, but the reason why we said presuppositions is because that's why you accept. That's why you accept all of them. So or that's why people accept all of them. Like, follow your heart.
Yeah.
That's
you want to hear something about? Everybody knows jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
So the real full quote.
It's master of none, but good at all, or something like that.
No. So it's jack of all trades, a master of none is still better than a master of one.
Yeah, it's still better.
It's the full quote.
Yeah.
But we only know the first half.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same thing with Origin of Species. You know, the book Origin of Species. It's actually the origin of species and the ability for the races to compete. So let me look it up. Like, that's the full. That's the full.
So they only use half of these like common sayings to push something.
Jack of all trades thing reminds me of, I don't remember if it was Plato's or Aristotle's the democratic man. You familiar with that one? This concept that in a more modern sense, man spreads his interests thin. So you effectively are a master of none, but it's like you kind of dabble in a little bit of everything.
So the full title is On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. So you never hear that title.
Yeah, you don't. It's too long for people to remember.
Yeah, but it's pretty important if you really pay attention. So yeah, I mean there's tons of stuff like that. So like the jack of all trades, but like follow your heart.
My favorite one is I don't know if there's really a particular saying with it, but it's a presupposition that exists, and it's effectively that the future is always progress.
Oh, okay. So of course, so progress, right? Change is another one that you think change is good, progress is good.
That inherently everything always progresses towards something better.
Yeah, that's false.
That's
false.
We digress.
Technology, like about technology just being good overall. There's always anytime technology and the abilities of technology is brought up, they always bring up how medicine. They will always use a medical case as to why technology should be pushed forward in advance.
Yeah, but you would argue people now are more unhealthy than like 50 years ago.
That's what I was saying in my text with Bruce, right?
Smoking cigarettes and they were cool.
So there's go ahead, Bruce. I'm sorry.
No, I think at the beginning you said that slavery was it objectively right or wrong?
No, I said that it's not objectively wrong. Slavery is not objectively wrong.
Within the context of.
Yeah, within whatever context it's in, right? So. If it's like prisoners in a form of punishment, just punishment, then I don't think you can say that it's objectively wrong. But if it's a group of people going and grabbing another group of people and just fucking them up, then obviously
we also mentioned over punishing.
Yeah, over punishment. Yeah, over punishment is wrong.
Because you should also serve the assailant.
But why were you bringing that up, or why were you remembering?
Well, I mean, I think there are other ways that people can be slaves. Slaves to their instinct. If you look at
emotionally,
society generally, there's a percentage of people that just choose not to think about anything.
Yeah.
Choose to be impulsive. Actually, it's everything predicated on our first podcast.
Yeah.
7 sins.
Yeah.
Gluttony, envy, pride.
Yeah.
Those. I guess just being impulsive to a degree where you don't have like any discipline, like whatsoever. That, and I think changes when he says the future is.
This idea that future progress, change is all coupled together.
and then it's all good.
Then it's all good.
I mean, I guess we can say it is good, given that Trump is in office. This change is taking place.
Well, it depends,
Necessary
it
change.
depends on, yeah.
But then we argued on whether it would be sufficient. And I
Yeah.
think it argued that all it takes is someone to come in and undo everything that he's done
Yeah.
and take us back in the wrong direction. But like I said, it depends on the voter. If the voter is the slave,
Of course.
right, if he's the slave because he chooses not to think or not to engage in questions that further understanding, like
Yeah.
just being earnest about it,
Yeah.
you know, then I don't see much room for optimism.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's why, like, you know.
And then I'd go back to saying, yeah, progress, given what I laid out,
Yeah.
is omni-bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's why like the ideology that we carry is conserve.
There's endless economies. It could always be good and bad.
Yeah.
Change is good, but it's also bad.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Slavery can be good in the context of like, but it can also be bad.
Yeah.
It has been bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No.
The
of course.
gun, you know, it's depending on the person using it, you can use it to defend yourself, but you can also use it to kill other people.
Yeah.
Or not kill in
Murder.
self-defense, murder.
Murder,
Yes,
yeah, murder,
sorry,
yeah.
murder.
Hey, that's good. That
Thank you for
See?
correcting.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
See, that's definitely good that we catch things like that because this is the reason why I wanted, you know, this topic, and it sucks that Jeb's not here, but the reason why this topic is important is because
Dude,
I
forgot about Oscar just now.
identifying.
Where is he? He's supposed to be
I don't
showing
know.
up.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know.
I
he
completely
knew.
forgot he was supposed to.
Yeah, he knew. Damn, Bruce, that's messed up. Anyway, so he knew, bro. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to have the discussion about that is because if we start identifying these things, I think that's how we're gonna fix a lot of problems in culture and society in our daily lives.
Identifying,
The presuppositions.
but it's.
Correcting
I
the
feel
language
like we already are aware. I just think we need to slow down on the reaction.
No,
Type shit.
well, no, because look at earlier when I said are objects amoral. Everyone immediately.
To my point, I
No
need
one
to
said-
slow down on the
yeah.
reaction of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
nobody
That's what I'm
said you were
saying.
wrong. We were just trying to understand.
Well, it
Right,
felt like
right.
you said it that way,
Well,
Bruce.
I'm sorry you felt that.
So
I was in
no.
the same boat with Bruce.
So
It's
okay.
like that because I
Yes.
even said that's an iffy question, you know.
Slowing down on the reaction.
It's like thinking before you speak.
Yeah, of course.
That's something that everybody can
Yeah,
learn.
everyone
No,
can
yeah, for sure.
benefit from that, but I think more specifically, whenever you're talking with people, okay, every time that even the act of speaking with someone,
Yeah.
you are accepting presuppositions. Okay, you need to be
Right.
able to identify
Right.
when you are doing that and stop doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, DeAndre. I mean, it's so.
I get it.
It's so subversive. Like right now,
I understand.
Right now,
but
think about
this
this.
is why it's so easy.
It's funny because you pulled it like 3 times
Yeah,
on Bruce.
I know.
But
I know
look,
I did.
this is why it's so easy, and maybe why you've been catching us, throughout the conversation, is because ultimately we're just trying to be understood, type of shit, and that right there is a part of the communication where we slip up. Right?
Oh, of course.
And
But-
I think that back to what I was saying, we just need to slow down on our reaction time and think before we
Absolutely.
respond.
Absolutely, you have to think before you respond.
Type of shit.
But even so, yes, you
Or
slow
think how to
down
respond.
Or think how to respond.
or think how to respond. Yes.
Right, because a majority of the time people are just trying to communicate, not think before they communicate, type of shit.
Well, we need to not do that.
Oh, of course,
Yeah,
bro.
so-
Of course.
I've always argued, and this only applies to good-spirited discussion, is that a lot of the times, 90% of your conversation needs to basically be defining the foundational
Yeah.
where you're
Right.
coming from.
The words, definitions
Yeah,
of
right.
words.
Like,
Because-
that's discernment right
Because
there.
you'll get
What-
2 hours into an argument and then
Like,
realize
what
both
the
sides are arguing the
fuck
same
are they-
shit.
Yeah,
They
right.
just have
We've done that
different-
before.
We've done that, yes,
Yeah.
tons of times.
Exactly, because that's
Especially with Carlos.
Bro, this boy Carlos will bring up, arguments that we all agree upon, and we like, what do you? Hold on, we on the same side. You know what I mean?
2 plus 2 is 4. I know, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
telling you, 2 plus
you
4.
But I'm
right, right.
Is it a smaller one?
because
What are
because
you getting?
I'm not gonna just let things slip by anymore, bro. And,
Yeah,
like, I haven't
yeah.
done it. I haven't done it, and this is one of the reasons why, I've lost friendships because whenever in discussions, I don't let just words slip by. I'll be like, no, this means that. This literally means that. I'm not gonna let you use it for this. And it's too disruptive.
I talk about the beauty of this all the time, the conflict averse. You have to be able to have these kind of conversations with each other.
Oh,
Because, for me, if I'm having this conversation with you, it helps me understand you on a deeper level, right or wrong. And I'm able to understand my own intuition and understanding of the subject, right or wrong, if we just have a healthy communication about it and not so much
well,
trying to prove each other.
we already
right or
have
wrong.
like a level of respect.
That's why this group is what it is.
Yeah, it's
right?
too concrete at this point because we've known each other for too long. Right?
It's not just knowing each other, it's because we love each other.
Well, of course.
That's what it is.
That's the concrete level of respect.
Right.
Is that level
That's
of
the
love.
beauty of
This
we
situation.
don't deal with conflict averse within this circle.
Yeah.
Like if there's something that can
We
be
should.
discussed.
Absolutely.
We should. It's.
We should what?
Have conflict.
Oh no!
That
That's
conflict is
it's
fine,
important.
though.
No,
That's
that's not what
I'm saying.
That's not what DeAndre's
No,
saying.
it's important though. That way we
Different
understand each
conflict,
other
right.
on a deeper level, and
Yeah.
you're able to express. You're able to express ideas. You're able to express ideas.
Yeah.
And know.
He like tapped him, man.
And know if you're right or wrong. You
Yeah,
know what I
no.
mean?
Bruce, he's not saying that we shouldn't. Real quick, he's not saying that we shouldn't have conflict. He's saying that none of us are like, none of us are the type of people who will be thrown aback
Right,
or
so
like
swayed away from
swayed
conflict,
away
not
from it
welcoming.
with each
Not-
other or like feel disrespected.
Yeah,
and
none
stuff
of
like
us
that.
will
Right,
keep
right.
the peace in the conversation
Yeah.
in order to make everything cool. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to understand it on a deeper level,
Absolutely.
the subject and the person. That's
Yeah.
that's
Just
the perk.
welcome.
Yeah.
More
That's the
welcoming.
perk.
That is the
more
perk.
more welcoming of disagreement.
Yeah, more welcome
Right.
and disagreement.
But
Not
it's
being
safe
afraid.
to do that here.
Or understanding the
It's safe to
disagreement.
do that here.
Again,
Of course.
Admitting
Yeah.
when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wrong. I didn't.
Right.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
right there is because you learn so much about
That's
yourself.
why I want to redo episode 1 because I have a totally different view of episode 1, bro. Totally different.
Carlos has proven
That's
me
what
wrong.
but that's what I'm saying though. Like
Yeah.
you have a different view of it.
Yeah.
Even though no matter how you think about it, right or wrong,
Yeah.
you were enlightened by it just because
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
didn't block yourself off from the
I think
conversation.
that's incredibly foolish.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Incredibly foolish.
And
Yeah.
what's beautiful about it is that, in our discussions, I'd usually come back and say, hey, once I thought about it, seen the point you're making, I may have been wrong about what I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
That's
I did the same thing.
Right.
I did the same thing whenever we were talking
and
about
we become better from that shit.
the morality of like the whole Israel and Palestine thing. I had to come back to Bruce and be like, you know what? I think you're right. You
Yeah.
know? And like one of the just to touch on it, Bruce is making the point that if you're going to hold and this is a nutshell. Obviously, he explained it.
Sure.
But
Synopsis.
if you're going to hold an ethical high ground, then it's incumbent upon you to be moral. And I was saying war is war, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to claim an ethical high ground, even in war, you have to have an ethical standard to abide by. You know what I mean? And I wasn't seeing that at the time. And that was about right, Bruce? About the idea. So yeah, I mean, you got to be able to, You got to be able to do all those things.
To handle conflict.
To handle conflict, but not only that,
and react to it appropriately.
You don't have to take it personally.
That's what
Right.
I'm
That's yeah.
Hey, don't look at him.
I got you.
Don't look at him for agreement. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
There you go. Great example.
I
dude.
just said it.
That's what. Hey, and practice what you preach, man.
So yeah. So all right. So the idioms. So I had a couple more little idioms. Now I don't know if they're idioms. They're like quotes and shit. But,
Sure.
So follow your heart. Okay. I think that now I've been thinking about this one for a while.
Follow your heart is a wild one if you actually.
If I did that,
Look into that, you know.
if I did that, bro, I would have been. I would have been plowed next to the Chick-fil-A
I would have showed up here with one sock, thought it was okay. Follow my heart. You know what I mean?
Imagine saying that to a pedophile or something.
Oh, follow your heart, bro.
Dude.
So there's that one. Okay, so this one I've been thinking about. But it's a common saying: don't mistake incompetence for malice. Okay. Sometimes I think that
the other way of saying what is don't attribute to malice what could be summed up by incompetence.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of evil people are not just purposefully incompetent, but they don't care to even be or learn to be competent.
Yeah.
Like they know they're incompetent, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, don't care, right? The other one is progress. When you hear progress, there's an underlying idea that it's good.
I think progress should be replaced with due diligence.
Due diligence. Okay, diversity is a strength. That's crazy. Animals are innocent. Now, we already discussed that. So the whole thing about diversity as a strength is, I think that I don't think that that's particularly true as stated.
What is
I think that depends on because we're pretty diverse people.
United
by like a similar belief and principle.
Exactly. Diversity is a strength. So what does it matter?
What the hell does that mean?
That's basically what I'm.
That's the question.
That's exactly.
What the fuck does that mean?
That's exactly what I'm about to get to. We're diverse. You know what I mean? But we all literally
very similar people
agree and are driven by the essentially exact same framework of principles and beliefs,
it's like
which is why we are the way that we are with each other and why it works so well with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we were truly diverse, I think that shit like this wouldn't even be possible.
I think that was the goal of America initially, is that bunch of people from Europe and other parts of the world, they can come to America and say, all right, we're not like it's like we're driven by this like idea, right, of America, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's so great. It's honestly so nice if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because there were like lords and kings everywhere else.
Yeah.
They came here where they said, we're going to govern ourselves.
Hold on.
People,
was that bad?
No, I think that's great.
No. The lords and kings everywhere else. Was that bad?
I think there were more, given history, I think there were more tyrants than benevolent kings.
Okay.
Given history.
Statistically,
that's
true.
and that's what they were kind of running away from to get here. Like, I think the first big mass of people coming were the Protestants that were like, hey, like, we don't...
It's like how he says on the Patriot, why should I trade one tyrant 1,000 miles away for 1,000 tyrants 1 mile away? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I see that point, right? So, it was good, like it's good what we have here, but just because it's good what we have here does not mean that the alternative is inherently and objectively wrong. Sure. And again, that's another presupposition that we would have to take. In order to be like, wow, this is absolutely superior.
My original point was gonna be, like, America's very diverse, you know, diverse. But as long as we can unite with the idea that, hey, like, we are good here, we have the most freedom here. It's just we don't have that right now, you know.
The problem is, at what point do you stop calling something diverse, because the diversity in America ultimately it's a detriment whenever you don't have proper assimilation.
Right.
But that's the thing. Like we have to bind by the idea of America.
At what point do you have the assimilation and the diversity? Right?
I think that's what happened when they started just saying white people.
Yeah.
Because before it was Italian and German
Right.
and Irish. They weren't white. And then what happened to where now they're all white? What is it that happened? And I think that's kind of like what Kevin's talking about. Like at what point is it not diverse anymore? Right? And that's going to happen to all of us.
Me and Jay talked about that a little bit before the podcast. I think that, people's identity, when people's identity starts to get conflicted is when people start to unite together. Almost like what happened with, black people and their identity. Like our identity got kind of fucking conflicted with slavery and all this shit. And then we had to unite and had to create our own type of shit, and we had to start over that way. I feel like that's what'll happen. You know what I mean? If we all don't, unite ourselves as like brothers and sisters type shit like the other nations do. You know what I mean? Because then we're gonna go back to square one. You know what I mean? Where everyone has this.
I had laid it out to Bruce. Remember, like the 7 stages that I said that I think, and like I said that it seems to me that like Black Americans are in like stage 4, white Americans are already in stage 7, where their identity is completely like disintegrating, and they don't even like acknowledge themselves.
White people aren't proud to be white.
Exactly, like they don't even acknowledge themselves as their root. Now
so then, how do you? I'd say define diversity.
That's why I think it's
a made up word.
It's a made up word. It's nebulous to me, bro. It's nebulous to me. What do they mean by that?
Right. Is that an ethnic diversity? Is that an ideological diversity?
Color.
Is that a
color. We need all the colors. Get all the colors in here.
If you want to define
all
it,
colors in it.
you can define it like superficially. Like, this is a very diverse, room.
Right.
But I mean, if we're to, like in microcosm, if people were to watch this podcast, the first thing they notice is like, wow, they all disagree with each other. And then usually, no, I'm just giving an example. And then usually they say like, well, how are they still having such fruitful discussions when they all disagree on like everything?
Yeah.
And yet there's like such maturity like in the room. But if you were to define it the way in a different context where we want diversity and we want everyone to agree and no one raises like any discussions that would be problematic then. But you have to have that.
Well, that's what.
And you don't need to have that.
So we want diversity, but we want everyone to agree. Well, that's
the lack of diversity.
That's a product of mashing them all together. Mm-hmm. It's a product of doing that on purpose. So there was one thing that I was talking to Kevin about this topic in general, and it was about if your mother or father were to ground you. Okay, let's say no TV for a week, and when they're not home and you watch TV, is that disrespectful to your mother and father?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. Just I have to ask. So then, whenever the Tower of Babel was being created, all the humans were together.
Right, language.
One language all together.
Right.
And a punishment for having been so prideful was diversity. Okay, God said these people over here, these people over here, these people over here, and then all the languages were created, right? And now we have a group of people that are purposefully trying to bring everyone together. Mm-hmm. So is that disrespectful to God, the punishment that God...
I think you can make an argument.
Why are we bringing everyone together? Are we building a tower again?
That's what it seems like, DeAndre. So yeah. Well, I don't have a problem if people want to, like the U.S. Right? But to tell you it's the right path objectively, and to say that it's a strength objectively,
that's from Tower of Babel.
that's the Tower of Babel
yeah,
shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I think, right? But
That's what I said, right?
yeah,
As long as we don't make a tower.
yeah, but what's making the tower is forcing them all to everyone. Diversity, you motherfucker!
Right.
Get diverse in this motherfucker!
And it's a very superficial diversity though, like
But it results
because it's all about color and race.
the
Like,
plan.
that's all it's about.
So the plan is for it to result in complete intersectionality and ease of control. Because if you start mixing all these people who don't want to integrate or assimilate with each other,
Conflict and instability.
it's going to become like a prison.
Yeah.
Okay? And a prison has the whites, the Mexicans, the blacks, and when you go into prison, you can't go to any other. You have to go to your race. You can't fuck around, or you get in trouble, right?
Yeah,
That's
so
what.
crazy,
But
honestly.
there's a theory that it's done that way to make it easier on the prison system to guard the prisoners, because now they're too busy fighting amongst themselves.
What do you mean
Yeah.
it's done that way?
Okay, so there's like a conspiracy theory that it's promoted, that type of behavior, tribalistic behavior
It's
is
not
promoted.
promoted. They can't control that shit.
Exactly.
That's why I
That's
said
just
it's a
what
conspiracy theory.
But let's use our heads here.
Yeah,
No, but why is that
You
the
can
case?
force it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do you think that is the
Remove
case? though?
communal.
Bro, you can't force that shit.
No, but you only need, like-
you don't need to is what I'm saying. Like you don't need
Honestly,
to.
all you need is like to get a hold of like few powerful people in the prison to like rile them all up, right?
yeah.
Like you just need the leaders of like
No,
whatever.
I mean that's like this. The conspiracy theory is that prison systems they promote racial segregation so that the races
It's like
are
easier
constantly.
on them.
It's
Right,
easier
right.
to guard
Right.
prisoners who are fighting amongst each other in groups than a
makes
whole.
sense.
Yeah. it
So
makes perfect
yeah, so that's
I
that.
don't think they have to do that much work.
I don't think you have to do that much.
Yeah,
work
I don't
either.
think so. I think
No,
you
I
just
mean,
need to get
what I'm saying is
few
that
big
it's
people.
it's natural.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, because
So
I mean,
You just
that-
need to light the match, Bruce.
Listen, there is no,
that's what I want.
I just don't think
And
there's
then
a
we'll get the
conspiracy
fuck
behind
There is none. I think
Yeah,
if you're
same.
running, I mean, you ran an experiment, but you know,
But
you
what-
have black
what-
gangs, you have Hispanic gangs, you have
They're already at war with each other outside of the.
before they get to prison.
Type
It's
shit.
just
Right.
natural
Yeah.
for them to. I mean, a lot of prisoners saying,
Dude,
yeah,
that
you,
is
you
actually
have to.
so interesting why that is.
So yeah, because
Like imagine you're there for 20 years.
You wanna know why? It's conflict averse. Back to what we were saying. You know, it's a lack of understanding of
Yeah.
one another. They
they're-
can't have healthy conversations.
yeah, they can't.
I think
Not at all.
Though they're the prisoners.
They're
Why do you think they're criminals in the first place?
They're
These,
more prone to violence.
these are
from
the-
the beginning.
these are the types of fools that will punch you because they don't understand a word you said.
they don't like how you said it.
Or they don't like how you said it.
I don't like the way he looked at me.
Yeah.
What's funny is
Exactly.
they have their own rule of ethics in
Yeah,
prison.
yeah.
They don't tolerate child molesters.
Yeah.
That's like the end of it.
I wonder if that's more because they want
They were
someone
victims.
to pick on
No, they're victims. of it.
versus they're victims of
They're
it.
victims.
Oh, I never even
Yeah,
thought
they're
about
victims
that.
of it. It's like they don't. They
Yo.
find out you're a child molester.
You're done for.
Yeah.
I never even thought about
So
that.
yeah, I
If
didn't.
you
I
don't
never
fight
think.
back.
I didn't ever think that it was because of some righteous motive. I always thought that it was either because they wanted someone to pick on that everyone agrees should be picked on,
Yeah.
or some other. But I never
They don't-
thought like, oh yeah, that's justice.
They don't like bullies.
Yeah, not at
Yeah.
all.
If you don't fight back, you're gonna get raped.
Yeah, but even
Period.
rapists in prison
Yeah.
are sometimes are seeked out to
That's
get.
just
to
that's
get
just child
beat up.
molestation. They associate it with rape. You know.
Interesting.
That is so. I never.
All right,
even thought
so
about
the other ones.
And like you said, and the guards they'll sit by and watch.
Before we
They
too
won't
far,
do anything.
on the topic of control with the prison system, I think if you scale this up, you get kind of the patterns you get where like the U.S. puts certain tin horn dictators in control of the Middle East because it's easier to control the entire region.
Yeah, no, that
right?
makes perfect
You
sense.
scale that down to a prison, and then you scale that even further down to a school system where you intentionally dispromote the racial hegemony because you don't want a warlord over their flock. You want teachers over a diverse and more easily controlled in that aspect.
A slave.
Yeah.
The outcome is a creative slave.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it is.
So I said that's why it's objectively wrong.
That's what I feel like. Nah, yeah.
It is. It is.
And then you go vote.
Okay, please. So.
But the optimism is people knew. A lot of people that are on the left went straight to the right. A lot of people that voted for Obama and Bernie Sanders
Are
started
they
voting
right?
for Trump.
They need to pick up more principled framework, not just be politically motivated by what they're saying. They need to actually have
Principles.
the principles. So that's why, whenever you say that they have buyer's remorse.
Voters remorse. Voters
Yeah,
remorse.
voters remorse, right?
Okay.
So yeah, they have voters remorse. Yeah, I see that. But is it more so because they've picked up principles or because they saw how decrepit?
They saw how decrepit.
Yeah.
So then that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Because they'll just fall into the
Yeah,
next.
they need to pick up the principles. Well, I'm sure some are, but I don't think that's the bulk, right? So, so back to the whole gender one, right? There was one thing that I think is very subversive about this method of presupposition. I guess I'm just gonna say subversion, right? So it's incredibly sly. The presuppositional subversion. So this is what I got. So gender is the social construct, right? So at the time we would argue, no, it's biological. So whenever you start arguing for its characteristics, you have acknowledged that it exists, right? If you start arguing for something's characteristics, you are agreeing that thing exists, correct? So arguing for the origin of something is arguing for its existence. Okay, so if you were to say that gender is a social construct, and you start either disagreeing or agreeing, you are now disagreeing or agreeing with the origin of it.
Like you're respecting that gender itself exists.
You're respecting that gender itself exists. Okay, so not only are you acknowledging that it is real, but you are also acknowledging that it has origin. Okay, and characteristics. So it's a double, it's like a loop.
Right.
Okay, do you understand
Right.
the loop that you're causing?
Who
by
made the
doing that?
term gender?
That's look it up.
Who cares? It's not real.
Look it up.
I'm
So
just curious.
so look it
You
up.
can't ask that. That's anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, probably.
it was a Jewish person.
Whoa, Jay.
No one said anything about
It was a non-Goyo dude.
It was a non-Goya. So
We're playing Siege?
okay, so hey, you're about to knock your shit, dog. So here's the thing. Whenever you do that, you're now in kind of like an ideological death loop. Because not only are you arguing that, or have you agreed that it's real, you are now arguing how its reality came to be.
Right.
Okay, do you understand how fucking crazy this weapon actually is,
Yes.
ideologically?
It's like arguing mythical creatures or some shit.
It's like arguing mythical creatures, but also when they came about
Type shit.
and how they came about.
Right.
Where was the first unicorn born?
Yeah, right.
Hey, the first unicorn was born in 1784, and you're like, no, it's got to be 1787.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I think it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of
With-
time.
it's-
Yeah.
it's-
It's a waste of time unless they bring it up and then
It's
you're
not
what do you
a-
mean?
it's
What do you
a-
mean by that?
Yeah, when they bring it up, you just shoot them.
but no one's
So
no one said that. No one said that, Bruce.
Huh? What?
No one said that at the time.
Said what?
Oh, what do
Yeah.
you mean by that?
10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
No one questioned whether the gender is even real. You cannot measure for gender.
Because it was just common sense. At the time, it's like, what are you talking about?
but it was common sense. Why? My thing is, the word sex already exists.
Yes.
Right.
Who came up with gender? How do you prove it? How do you prove gender is real? prove that it's tangibly real, materially real. You can't. So this is another thing that I think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's like if you want to, on October 31st, if you want to dress up as whatever, you know, in, you know, November, December, January, you're still wearing the same costume. Okay, fine. You know, I'm not gonna. I could ask you why, like.
Because Raiden is
Are
the
you
strongest
wearing-
in Mortal Kombat.
I actually looked up.
Fine, you're like fine.
I
Fine.
actually looked up
Fine.
the origin of Halloween.
Yeah.
It happened like in the Ireland, and they did it to respect their ancestors essentially.
Yeah.
Because it was like the hollowed souls, you know, like.
Yeah.
So
And
they
it turned
dressed
it.
up as slutty nurses.
But that's what it became. That's what it became. Like
Yeah, of course
it was
it became.
something like more like
The Halloween.
Halloween is
it had more pure like origin. But now it's become
Like festive and
You have to remember that.
Right.
more
Yeah.
educational.
Kind of banal.
right. It was about respecting their ancestors.
Yeah, now it's about
and where they
disrespect.
came
So
from.
I see, yeah,
and
and I
whatnot.
see what you're saying.
And now
I
we
mean,
celebrate
my
the
example
sphere,
was like,
we
if you want to dress up,
Yeah,
as
and
Raiden,
about like
Right.
ghosts and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
It's not the
demons.
same.
And I'm asking
it's not
you,
the same at all.
well, it's been a couple months. Why are you still?
Why am I
mean,
still what, Bruce?
Well, okay, you don't play the game. Why are you still dressed as Raiden?
Who's Raiden?
What you're dressed as?
I'm dressed as me.
So you're Raiden.
This is who I am.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
No, he can dress up as whoever the fuck. Yo, he can dress up as a horse. Just don't be coming over here eating up my head.
Just don't be galloping that ass on
Right.
me.
Yeah, don't be galloping. I got eating
think-
up on my goddamn head. Eat your own head, goddamn.
Yeah, I think-
Be a horse over there.
Yeah.
I
You think
think
what?
the point you're trying to make is that when Raiden goes and tells other people, hey, it's okay to be whatever you want to be.
Instill Mortal Kombat.
You can be Reptile and you can be Scorpion and you can be Johnny Cage and you can, you know, be
Yeah.
Smoke or Noob Saibot or
Yeah.
you Shang Tsung. You
Yeah.
know,
I need a
You
warrior
can't
for
do that one.
Earthrealm.
That one's good.
I need a warrior for Earthrealm. But I
you
need a
can't be,
champion.
you can't be Shang Tsung because you're not Asian. He can be Shang Tsung because he's.
You think
but
Shao
you-
Kahn is just gonna lay over?
You got a
you see-
terrible
you see-
burn accident. You could be Baraka.
Yeah.
You see my point, but you know the person that is not dressed as these characters doesn't.
It's a different world.
I'm not. I don't know what planet you guys are living on. He's like,
Yeah.
well, aren't you concerned about it? Well, no. Initially, no. But when everyone's dressed up
Yeah.
and it continues to
Yeah.
spread,
Yeah.
right?
No.
You don't.
And now
Of course.
Your kid starts getting
Why-
a Sub-Zero outfit.
Yeah. Like
Right.
why?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But they do it on Halloween. Well, Daddy, how come we can't dress up like them because it's not Halloween, son?
Yeah.
So on Halloween, can we? Yes, but after Halloween's over, but
Yeah,
they're
but
doing it
imagine-
because they're crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Imagine. So, you know, as an analogy to what I'm saying, it's as if Halloween didn't even exist, right?
It's
now
always
you're-
been there.
No, it's not real. Halloween's not really real, right? You don't have to do that shit.
But only if they believe it.
Only
But
if
you
they
see
believe
why
it.
in the beginning I didn't engage in it. You know, someone asked, well, why are they dressing like I don't know. It's just go ask them.
Yeah.
You know, don't you? If they come and talk to me about why they find it legitimate to dress,
Yeah, a certain way.
like okay.
I mean,
thank
for
you.
kids, it
Go
kind of
ahead and
makes
shut
sense.
the door.
Well-
If I'm talking to a child,
Yeah, because
but you're talking about.
no, but because kids,
effectively, you are.
kids want to be who they
That would be my
admire,
next
right?
point. You're talking to an adult with a grown infant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. It's there was one journalist. I forgot his name. He's like, it's a waste of time.
Well,
You know, I don't.
it's a waste of time now, but at the time when the whole
It would have been a
idea.
waste of time.
No,
because
it wouldn't
was
have
common
because
sense.
because it's like now you're acknowledging the costume, and this is to analogize, right? You're acknowledging the costume now, right? But back then, you passed over, you allowed the idea of costumes being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that and that's what I'm saying. The way that you turn back or stop the infiltration is stopping allowing these presuppositions to be subversively introduced to you.
I see what you're saying.
So
You can't stop it.
You can. You can.
Absolutely. You know what the issue
Yes,
is?
you can.
The issue is freedom. The issue is freedom.
No.
Now, if you want to pass, and if you want to
That's-
make this a law,
You can't
No, this is
stop
this
it.
is-
No.
You can.
You stop the suppositions in yourself. You
Right.
don't accept
Yeah.
them.
that's
You
right.
type of shit.
Yeah.
And
right.
whenever someone's talking to you, you do not accept the suppositions.
and this needs to
that
be
apply them.
Grace.
How do you stop them from doing it?
Okay, no.
How do you get? How do you?
Because
you can.
you-
Now you can.
No,
You
obviously
can.
Inoculate them good sense.
you don't. Okay, look, you don't
You
stop. You don't stop them from doing, but it wouldn't be to the point where it is now if media that was battling against it at the time didn't even allow for the idea of it being real to exist.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason it is able to progress so fast is because you acknowledge that this shit even exists in the first place. That right now, if people back then, when we were younger, would have said no, it's not real, it doesn't exist, we would probably still be having that conversation now of whether it exists or not. But instead, it's progressed into fucking hell, and now we're finally. People like me are finally seeing it. So, but I mean, we have tons of them, dude.
Yeah, there are plenty of people that said what you said. That
I don't remember.
well, it
Anyone saying
doesn't
it.
exist. The
Yeah.
issue came when they started teaching it in schools. That's when it became ambiguous.
People just want to be edgy though. Like if there's something cool and
No, but
edgy, they're
there's-
gonna want to do it.
Yeah.
There's
That's
many.
that's how things start.
No,
All you do is
there's
ask
many.
them.
There's many of these. I'm just bringing up gender as one, but like there's so many that I mean they do it in like our science class with like dinosaurs and shit, dude. Okay, like the time limit, like where they say like the carbon dating, trust the science, for example. Science is a self-modulating apparatus. It continuously proves itself wrong.
Right.
Why would you trust anything that it says right now, especially if it can have a negative impact on you? If in 5 years science can prove itself wrong, we know that science is a self-improving apparatus it continuously proves itself wrong. Just by its inherent nature, you shouldn't trust anything that science spits out at any point in time.
Going back to the cultural thing, what do y'all think of when y'all think of the 70s?
I think it was probably.
Like culturally speaking.
I mean, it was
Where we
probably.
need to be.
No, hell
Type
no,
shit.
no, absolutely not.
Bro, they were not tolerating the
they
bullshit.
Great
were.
point. Great
Bro,
point.
They were.
When I
Feminism?
when I think of the 70s, I'm thinking about hippies.
Yeah.
Right? But hippies were the small group of people, like
Yeah.
and most people were more rational, more
Right.
conservative.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, but when we think of the 70s, like we're thinking about the hippies, bro, and that was a small
There's
like
a lot-
sect
I mean,
of people.
That's true. That's true for any leftist Marxist pushing people. I mean, if you think about like painting and painters, a lot of people start bringing up Rothko and fucking Pablo Picasso and shit, bro. All Marxist painters. That's what's crazy. Anytime you think about a time period, especially with the U.S., it's always Marxist heroes, Marxist pushing people. Why? It's the same thing with like the hippie shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Small sect of people,
Yeah.
but that's what we think about when we think about the 70s.
Well, because
It's a romanticized culture
it's yeah
by a very specific set of people that have the media to romanticize.
they romanticize that on purpose and push it to us, and now that's all we think about when we think about that era, right? So again, that's a presupposition, right? So it's a presuppositional warfare to not. Essentially, it's like question everything. It's like skeptical, but I don't want to say skeptical because if you really want to be skeptical, you have to be skeptical if being skeptical is the correct way of being. Okay, that's why.
I feel like that should be the normal way of being.
But
Being skeptical.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, 100%.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that especially if you're a Christian, the way of being is to have faith.
But
But
If someone's
No. But
telling
how do you
Hold
get
on.
to that conclusion? Is by being skeptical.
right.
Well, hold on. What were you saying, Bruce?
No, I was agreeing with what he said about skepticism. You don't.
When should you be skeptical of your own skepticism?
When you're looking at a man and they tell you that they're a woman.
Okay.
I mean,
What?
Unless you're talking about skepticism like in a different way.
Okay.
like critical thinking, you mean?
Well, I mean, I think that.
But like, what are you talking about?
I don't think that critical thinking and skepticism are related.
How are they different?
What?
How are they different?
How are they different?
If they're not related.
I don't think that you need critical thinking skills to be skeptical.
I think so.
Why?
Because things are put in parables and are not told straight on purpose because
People just eat it up and aren't skeptical enough? Is that what you're saying? Yes?
hey,
I would argue
That's not a function of critical thinking.
I would argue that there are two separate things, and I think if you wanted to kind of dumb it down just a hair, you could say that skepticism is not accepting lies, and critical thinking is seeking the truth.
type.
It's not necessarily hand in hand.
Well, I don't think that skepticism only deals with lies. I think skepticism deals with lies and truths. It's not accepting anything at all.
Yeah.
And I think skepticism taken to its conclusion defeats itself because, like I said, if you're a skeptic, you have to be skeptical if being skeptical is correct. It's paradoxical.
You gotta be a lukewarm skeptic. Is
Yeah,
what he's saying.
you
gotta be half-assed.
Yeah,
Right.
you can't be a full skeptic.
Well, you're not. No, you can't.
Yeah, but
I mean,
no
that's
one's
what you're
full
skeptical
skeptic.
about.
But
Oh, what do you mean?
There are things
Okay,
you can be skeptical.
let me-
You can reasonably skeptical about.
What's up?
There are things you can be reasonably
Yeah,
skeptical about, and then
well-
from there, then it's there's a process of like critical thinking,
Right,
a process
and
of
discernment.
dissecting,
No,
a
you
process of
have
wanting
obviously.
to understand.
But
You
that's
have to
not
apply
what we
critical
mean
thinking.
whenever we say we gotta be skeptical. We're
Okay.
not saying you gotta be skeptical
Whoa.
to the T.
But that's what skepticism is. So, okay, and why do you get to apply it? Like, what is modulating the application of skepticism?
Where do you define the limits?
Where do you define limits? Okay, so DeAndre,
The Earth is flat.
if you're fully, come on,
Hey,
You almost fucked them up,
we
right
all
there.
know, we all know it.
You saw that head movement? He almost fucked them up.
Same bucket.
Bro, you factory reset his ass.
Okay, so DeAndre, if you're fully skeptical, right, then you would have to be skeptical that
With your own skeptics.
Right.
yes,
Right.
yeah,
Like you would have to
But
question like if
that-
you being skeptical is even the right way to be.
yeah.
For me, that's not draining, right? Because I'm able to understand things on.
How do you
more-
know that though?
Because it's not black and white anymore. Because I'm thinking on multiple layers, like multiple. I'm having like multiple ways of, my perception is
Analyzing.
It's enhanced.
But how
right?
do you know that's the right way to be?
It's not about that it's the right way. It's the fact that I'm going through all these fucking.
Okay, so what are you deploying in order to go through all the?
It's critical thinking.
Yeah,
It's
critical
it's
thinking.
An analysis. It's an analysis, but purely it's right and wrong.
Yeah, but you are deploying critical thinking into your skepticism.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not a part of the skepticism. Skepticism.
Define skepticism for me real quick.
Skepticism is not taking things at face value, not agreeing with things without knowing full details,
Right.
not having like a logic pattern
Right.
to follow in order to conclude something,
I feel like I'm showing my human by doing that.
or taking things that people tell you as truth, like again face value. So like
Right.
if a scientist comes to you and says, "Oh, look, we just discovered
Right.
you know, do you believe him or not?"
I don't. I'll rip. You know what I
For real?
I'll rip.
Fucking Bill Nye's bitch ass. H2O is 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. My ass.
Let me.
Let me see him.
What it look like?
Let me.
Show me.
So
But that really is the whole
that's
argument with information. It's like
you have to be.
am what I'm saying is it true or is it bullshit?
I think that if you are a critically thinking person, you'll be skeptical. But I don't think that if you're skeptical, you're a critically thinking person.
Yeah. You want to
it's
use
like, what are you
skepticism-
asking yourself?
Like, you want to use it as a tool, not be that.
Not,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But a lot of people are that. That's why you get to flat Earth.
Because if you're not being skeptical, you're not.
Like you're
Yeah.
being a slave.
That's
you're
how.
not thinking. Like
Yeah.
you said when you said incompetence
Yeah.
or being woefully ignorant.
Yeah.
Right. The first step could be like skepticism. I'm kind of questioning what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even then, when you said science is self-correcting, in most cases it's wrong. We understand science to a degree where we make the distinctions between men and women.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
There's nothing beyond that.
There's nothing beyond that.
So in that case, it's not wrong.
Well, because it's real.
Okay, that's it.
What
Because before you said it was wrong.
what did I say was wrong?
Science in general.
Oh no, yeah, but okay. So what I mean by
When you say science, I'm talking biology.
okay,
No, I think
no.
Carlos is saying
This-
science as an institution has been messing up a lot as of late.
No, as of late, always, and not only that, like
I'm just applying
that's
it to.
that's an established tangible. Bruce.
Yeah, I'm applying it to.
You know.
Sex and not gender.
Yeah.
Or science. No, there's no such thing as a
fine.
social construct.
So for example, whenever you do a mechanical design, you run a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the simulation is bound by parameters
Right.
that is set by the designer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I show you the simulation and I'm like, hey, look, this is the results. Everything's gonna work just fine. Blah blah blah. You then go and you ask what were the parameters, right? And if the parameters are set incorrectly, then you can't trust those results.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever people say trust the science, that's exactly what's happening right now, right? So they come up with a whole bunch of results, especially, I don't want to talk about this because it's another little hot button, but climate, okay? They come up with some climate shit and show these models that everyone gets behind. But you don't know what the preconditions in the models were set to.
You have to be skeptical.
Yeah, of course you have to be
And
skeptical.
then you have to use critical thinking.
No,
right?
you use critical. You're a critical thinker first, and that leads you to be skeptical. You don't just take it at face value.
No, skepticism has nothing to do with belief.
Skepticism.
It's just the rejection of belief of something that you're saying that I'm putting into question. And I continue asking questions
wait.
so I understand what you're saying.
Skeptical has nothing to do with belief.
No. If I'm skeptical, if you're getting me to believe something,
It's just an opinion.
Well, I mean,
it's an uninformed opinion, I'm going to be skeptical about it. I'm not going to believe it.
okay, so
Right.
then what? So then, if someone were to say trust the science, do you?
I'm going to be skeptical
Yeah,
about it.
right.
I'm going to investigate it myself.
Why?
Because that's how thinking's working. That's how think people that think. That's how it works.
That's healthy thinking.
Why should I believe it?
That's-
Why should you believe that gender is a social construct? Why would you believe that?
Right or
Would
wrong?
you not be skeptical about that?
I mean,
Right or wrong,
I'm
you're not-
skeptical if gender is even a thing.
Okay, that's skepticism.
Yeah, but I arrived to that.
You learn in biology class that there are men and women.
I arrived to that skepticism. I'm skeptical because I have critical thinking,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know what
No, this is another linguistic thing. Like
Yeah.
you guys are saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, no, of course.
It's
but
like
we're just
I have
just
it- I have this
converging.
thing. I have this thing. Where we had this you and I argued about racism,
Yeah.
and he used a different
For how-
definition
for how many
of
days?
word racism.
For how many days?
How many days?
Oh, you must have something similar.
Yes.
then.
Days. Fucking days.
He uses a different definition of word than most people use. Let's say he uses a more traditional definition, and we've adopted this newer definition.
Well, that's your
So I'm just saying that's where the argument happens often with Carlos. It's like we're saying the same thing,
Yes.
but he wants to make sure you're using that word right.
It needs to.
Even though he kind of understands where you're coming from,
Mhm.
he wants you to.
Well, I mean, you have to be precise in language,
Sure.
right?
Yes, because if you're not, then you start getting
Yeah, so
into
I have no
presuppositions.
idea really what me and Bruce were just now arguing about, but it was mostly I was mostly trying to come with the idea that that in this case, our critical thinking deployed skepticism. And there's other cases where people are just skeptical with no critical thinking.
So you can't just say you're skeptical to Carlos right here.
You can. I mean, I see what he's saying. You can be skeptical and like not do any investigation.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't believe what you're saying. You have questions about what you're saying and not asking questions.
I hate Elon Musk.
I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
That's skepticism.
And just walk away.
I don't like. I'm skeptical about Trump. I don't like him. Well, why not?
Right. No critical thinking.
Hello.
My mother's call.
Yeah. No. Of course. So.
Because you're trying to by asking, what do you mean? You're inviting them to use some critical thinking.
Yeah.
You explain why you don't like him, or why you think he's a racist, or why.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people like. Okay, so.
But you see my.
No, I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, I don't disagree, right? But the reason why I'm kind of making the distinction is because, or I'm driving that point home, is because I've seen, and I've done it myself, where people are skeptical, and how do I put it? It's become a faith. Okay, the skepticism itself, and to be skeptical, and
Bro, there's a word for it.
The alternative is becoming a faith now.
It's a word for it. People that don't
religion.
No. People, it's people that don't believe in it, or people that don't believe in shit just to not believe in it. I forgot what it's called.
Rebellious, I guess.
No, there's a word for it, bro.
There's a word for it.
I'm about to look that shit up.
So I've done it, and you're not even deploying critical thinking anymore, right? And in doing so, or in the lack of doing so, you're just taking in all the presuppositions of the thing that you're not skeptical of, but the ulterior of it, right? The opposite of the thing that you're being skeptical of. You're just kind of taking all of its details in as fact, just to be skeptical of the thing that you're being skeptical of, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to be skeptical whether this is a table or not. It
started off as a chair.
Yeah, whether the dresser, what color the room is, or whether that's a plan or.
Well, that's what I mean by the thing that you said about the science of man or woman. I mean, there's nothing.
There's just common
Is that
sense.
even science anymore? I don't think that's biology anymore, is it?
Hey, I found a word.
What is it?
Contrarian.
Contrarian. Yes. Yes. That's the word. Hey. Good word. Good word, DeAndre. Yeah, contrarian. Man, I'm going to just start saying that shit. Quit being the contrarian, Bruce.
Bro.
Okay, so. Alright, so the other ones are technology is good. We talked about that in the beginning. Technology, so again, I mean, that goes into the whole idea of objects being amoral. How can technology be good if objects are amoral?
The more correct way of saying it is technology makes life more convenient.
But that's not necessarily
For
good.
who?
For the ones that have access to it.
Back to the analog,
Back to the analog.
I'm not against that. I got a portable CD player so I can be off my phone more.
Bro, I got a wireless phone charger. But, you know what I mean? Fuck it. I ain't even gonna plug my shit up. My analog is done. I just set my shit on there.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah, he just started saying shit and I'm just fuck.
Hey, I got a goldfish.
Yeah, I'm trying to be off my phone more, bro.
I'm
way on it too much.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for information.
Oh,
right?
100%.
And it's useless information.
I started uninstalling just everything off my phone. I use it a lot
Smart.
less.
Yeah, I got rid of
All the
Reddit a
social
long
media.
time ago.
At the beginning of
Yeah.
the year. Just
I don't have Snapchat.
I ain't got no
I want to
Ain't
delete.
got-
I want to delete my Snapchat.
Ain't
No
got
Facebook.
Facebook.
I ain't got
Nothing.
none of that. 7
Yeah.
years straight.
I got rid of that Facebook shit 20 years ago, goddamn.
Ugh.
Before
Get on
it
my
was
level.
even around.
Get on my level.
Damn, bro.
Yeah.
Got rid of MySpace. You know.
Yeah, no more MySpace, none of that.
I
Yeah.
don't belong into my Zanga.
Yeah. So yeah, you should. I think all those things.
Yeah, we
Like
gotta be
that
more
whole
animal.
idea again, bringing people together. Facebook, bringing people together. Everyone thinks that's all good. Is that good? Is that good?
If you use it wisely, maybe.
Who's using it wisely?
But them
What's
shorts,
the percentage?
Right.
them shorts.
What about
It's like bringing people together has never got us closer to a utopia
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not.
at all.
No, absolutely not. It's only caused problems.
At all.
Anything that allows you to scroll, oh dude, it's a rough one, dude. It's a rough one.
Yeah.
Are you on YouTube a lot, Bruce?
Sometimes.
Do you ever get on shorts?
Sometimes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Shorts are.
I ad blocked the shorts.
What do you mean?
The little shorts
Yeah.
button, I ad blocked it so I don't get access to it. And then there's an
Oh.
extension.
Like
where-
on your phone?
No, I don't use my
See,
phone
see.
for YouTube.
Fair.
Strictly computer. But there's an extension where it removes the URL from the short. So it's no longer in the short format. It's a YouTube video. And now there's no scrolling to the next one and
I
auto
see,
playing.
that's
That's
probably
Heck.
smart.
Damn.
That's smart.
That's
I
crazy.
don't fuck with that shit.
Yeah, we call it the vortex at my crib. Like you just get caught up in that bitch.
You're like, whoa.
We need to install a little like spray bottle on your phone
Right.
where you staring at it
Right.
right in the face.
Right.
And it's pepper spray.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
probably
for
like
sure.
that by design too.
Oh
Like,
yeah, 100%.
You hijack,
Dude,
you hijack
100%.
Dude,
the
I act-
cortex, then people are paying less attention.
Oh, for
They
sure.
can't hold an idea for less than
Yeah.
5, 6
Dude,
seconds.
I was talking to my wife about me getting a flip phone
Yeah.
just so I'd be
Mhm.
tempted less. Bro, she is staunchly against it.
Why?
Her argument is, I want to FaceTime you. Like, now that we got, like, Find My Thing,
Yeah.
like, I want to feel safe when you're not around. I want to make sure I know where you are.
Oh,
Right.
shit.
She's got thousands of reasons.
Buy her a
dude.
shotgun and let her.
Chuck the cell phone, get you a landline.
Hey,
We need
No,
to
I-
get back to
dude,
that.
speaking of,
you
dude.
ain't playing. You know
Bro,
what I mean?
yesterday I was at work. Our internet went out. My wife doesn't get a good signal here, so I was trying to call her, but it wouldn't ring.
You need at
Yeah.
least one
Because
landline.
you're
Bro,
on
I
the
feel like
internet.
landline.
Because you're on the internet. You're doing VoIP.
No. She has terrible cell service here, so I couldn't even call her. So she had to walk out into the street. At the end of the street, then we could talk. But I think landline probably like that needs to be like a security thing, right?
Yeah,
Because
you
if
need
the
at
cell
least
towers
one.
are gone, dude, we need
Well,
something
Like in an outage.
something tangible
Well,
that'll
In an
like.
outage, a landline.
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
That's how
Telepathic communication.
Yeah.
But dude, pigeons are so they did an experiment, right? Where they blindfolded a pigeon.
Yeah.
They got a compass in their
And
head.
then they beat the shit
Right,
out of it.
Yeah.
they
Compass in
blindfolded
that
a pigeon.
They
Um,
fucking inject the fucking
they-
micro.
They put an artificial smell
Uh-huh.
in the box. Took a train super far.
Uh-huh.
Went home, no problem.
It's the compass in their head,
No,
bro.
but that's the thing. Like
They wired that
Yeah.
way.
they know
Supposedly-
somehow, dude.
Supposedly
Like,
they can tell cardinal direction.
That's what I'm saying. They got a fucking.
and I think
compass.
a lot of animals do.
Yeah, I mean,
All of them
dude.
do. That's
I think that the most
Any
impressive,
animal that migrates.
No,
Tell
but
me,
it's, but
I
it's
think-
deeper than
Bro,
a compass, dude.
bro.
Yeah.
I think
It's deeper than a compass. You know where home is. That's not just a cardinal direction. Because you're blindfolded. You don't know which. I guess you would know which way you're going if you have a.
You know, you
Bro,
went east for
I
10
think
minutes
the
or
craziest of like the animal behaviors of that type of shit is beavers building shit to block off bodies of water.
Just randomly.
Dude, no, not randomly.
I mean, like
They-
we see it's random.
Yeah,
right?
it's random, but it's not.
But it's not.
Bro, that shit is
They
crazy.
actually looking out.
They literally
They're actually looking.
yeah,
they're
they
actually
literally
looking.
engineer their environment, bro. To
For the good. Like, that's the thing.
for the good.
It helps the environment.
Bro,
That's the
it's-
crazy thing.
That's fucking crazy, bro. How did they learn? To
You
me,
see, they don't learn,
You
bro.
can't.
Like,
you
they're
can't
programmed
explain.
that way,
You
bro.
can't explain that shit
By-
to me by evolution.
Right.
You cannot, dude.
They're-
How did an animal? Oh, I'll just put a tree here, and then
I'll put a lot of trees.
yeah, all of a sudden, yeah. Do you know
I'm
the
gonna block off this water.
the amount of trial and error it would have had to have taken.
No, they would have died off during trial and error.
That's
they
what I'm
would have
saying.
never learned. Like,
But exactly. So how much trial and error have to have had occurred for that behavior to not only stick, but then be passed on, and then trial and error occur again? Do you think that's how it happens?
That's not trial and error, bro.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's just what a beaver do.
A cheetah runs, 60 miles or 65 miles an hour.
That's a biological capability.
Yeah,
Like,
by antelope, the same thing, and
Yeah.
then in a straight line, the cheetah's going to catch. So the antelope does this, right, and it passes those traits on to its offspring.
Yeah.
Just that strategy itself,
Yeah. But
where
what about
where it can escape the predator to like maybe
what about
20% of the
building shit though?
Beavers?
Yeah,
they're
something
not
that's
just building. They're
No.
they're helping out the environment
absolutely.
Well,
somehow.
are they intentionally helping out the environment?
Or I mean,
But
'cause
the
they don't-
effects
they
are,
don't-
like-
they're
The effects
assuming-
are.
yeah, assuming they know they are,
Right.
and they don't. It's just that's just
how,
It's
okay,
like, does the
okay,
dung
okay.
beetle know it's helping clean up shit? Does it know it's helping
Like-
somebody?
beaver philosophy.
Does,
And they
It
walk
do
in
the
and we're
insects
talking
know
about
they're
beavers.
pollinating flowers?
Has no idea. You know
I
what I
have
mean?
no clue,
We
man.
just roll this shit up. My shit bigger than yours, nigga.
Literally. Literally.
Ah, shit. That's hilarious, dude. Yeah.
You just want to end it right there?
I mean, if you want, yeah, we can.